Chapter 76. It seemed that the breeze had blown away the morning mist. Along with huge rocks falling from the sky, the well-organized army shouted and rushed out of the clouds, attacking the Wushan sect's formation. Shouts and cries of killing rang out one after another. Li Tai looked at the army in standard armor outside the formation and finally showed a panic expression. How dare he mobilize troops to attack? Is he crazy? The Empress will not tolerate this. If Jiang Wang could hear Li Tai mumbling to himself at this moment, he would definitely answer. You don't understand the crazy world. Facing the attack of the catapult, Li Tai could only hope that the formation could withstand it. This kind of siege weapon consumed a huge amount of formation energy. He had no idea how many sets of boulders Jiang Wang had prepared, and whether the spirit stones accumulated by Wushan sect over 100 years of family business could withstand the consumption of continuous attacks. The fiery red boulders carrying blazing flames continuously smashed onto the city defense formation. The roar was like a war hammer hitting the ears, making the people in the city feel stuffy in the chest. From time to time, some people fainted and vomited, and their ears and noses bled. Fortunately, the formation was indeed strong enough that it was only slightly dimmed by a wave of boulders that fell on it. This level of damage could be repaired with a spirit stone. Li Tai made up his mind to delay time first. He had already notified other sects in Yuzhou. It would only take half a day for someone to come to support. By then, this guy will definitely bleed heavily. Click. The sudden sound of shattering brought silence to the Wushan sect. Looking up at the bright yellow light curtain, cracks had already appeared after the first wave of attack. The expected automatic repair did not occur, as huge rocks continued to fall one after another. Click. Click. The sound of shattering continued. What's going on? Repair the formation, it's about to break. What are those inner sect disciples doing? Oh my god, if the formation is broken, we will definitely be the first to die. What are you still standing there for? Run! Those people must have escaped. It will be too late when the formation is broken. The outer disciples were shouting and in chaos, and some of the timid ones had already begun to flee aimlessly. Everyone calm down, defend. The formation has not been broken yet, and it is already being repaired. The third elder still wanted to maintain order, so he killed several disciples who fled from the battlefield. Just as the situation was slowly coming under control, the bright yellow light curtain suddenly disappeared. Yes, it disappeared without any warning. Without the obstruction of the light curtain, the huge boulder, burning with raging flames, smashed onto the city wall. Boom! There were loud roars, the city walls were shattered, and the charred corpses were scattered everywhere. The third elder was about to curse, but the words were forced back and he looked at the dense crowds of people outside the city in horror. Jiang Wang drew his sword and pointed it in the direction of Li Tai. Soldiers! Follow me to kill the enemy. A figure flashed by, carrying a shining sword energy, and went straight towards Li Tai. The morale of the 30,000 imperial guards was high. The Lei army, armed with swords and shields, took the lead and broke into the city wall through the gap. The Dou division was divided into two, with the Lei division supporting the left and right and responsible for clearing out the enemies that were trapped on both sides. The Fire division abandoned the catapults, drew the short swords at their waists, followed the Thunder division and the Fighting division into the city wall, quickly occupied the position on the city wall, set up bows and crossbows, and shot at the masters among the defenders. When the war broke out, the strength of the three imperial guards was demonstrated on the battlefield for the first time. When all members are martial artists above the 7th grade, and they eat and live together, and practice the same skills together, combat power will be overwhelming. It can be said that the Wushan sect failed to form any effective defense at all. The morale of the army was broken by the first wave of fireballs. Faced with the lightning-fast hand-to-hand combat, they did not even have time to launch a combined attack. Of course, the high-quality martial artists of Wushan sect wanted to intervene to stop it, but Jiang Wang had already stepped forward and stabbed Li Tai with a sword. Faced with such a swift sword force, Li Tai frowned, not daring to be careless, and retreated to avoid the sharp edge temporarily. The first elder and the second elder looked at each other, and their figures flashed, wanting to go to the battlefield to help. If these two third grades were to be eliminated, the army would inevitably suffer a severe blow. Just as the two were about to leave, two figures, one in white and one in red, stopped them. Su Chongqing and Li Muqing were masked at this moment, holding their swords tightly, standing in front of the two men without saying a word. The first elder and the second elder looked at each other and asked hesitantly. What do you two mean by this? Judging from your aura, it seems that you are cultivating true qi, but this is support from other sections. Li Muking shook her head and spoke in a low, rough voice. Stop talking nonsense and either do it or stand still here. The great elder's eyes fixed, staring at Li Muking's face covered with black cloth, as if he had heard this voice somewhere before. Listening to the screams of the disciples being slaughtered below, the great elder did not dare to waste time. In that case, fellow deist, I'm sorry. Boom! A fight broke out among the 4 third-grade members, and the 4 of them tacitly agreed to take the fight away from the crowd. There are still 2 elders left in the Wushan sect. The 3rd elder was surrounded and killed by the Thunder Department commander who led 2,000 people in a military formation. The sect is in danger at this moment. Another one of the 4 elders was actually held back by Lu Yao. Lu Yao was seen with wings on her back, runes flashing on her aqua blue dress, and silver-white flying needles shot out from her 2 white wrists. Each needle had the power of a 3rd grade, and the speed was strange and her whereabouts were ghostly. The 4th elder was completely unable to understand her routine and was exhausted from dealing with it. The most important thing is that she can occasionally come up with some weird stuff, such as taking off her earrings and throwing them out, which can cause a large-scale spirit chi explosion. The explosion can even cause a mushroom cloud, an ordinary 3rd grade can't be hit by it. Lu Yao has a lot of jewelry like this on her body. The crystal-clear jade bracelet on her wrist exudes a dangerous aura. On the battlefield, Jiang Wang's side seemed to have an absolute advantage. Although the Wushan sect had the advantage in numbers, with more than 100,000 inner and outer disciples combined, they were still defeated when facing a real army. Li Tai, the top master of Wushan sect who should have the advantage and suppressed Jiang Wang, was also shocked at this moment. Jiang Wang's attack was like thunder, with each sword faster than the last. He didn't seem to be cautious in a fight against a higher level. Li Tai danced with the 2 short swords tightly and did not dare to be careless in the slightest. The 2 short knives are Li Tai's law weapon. In previous battles, the combination of the 2 sharp weapons has always been effective. Short weapons do not have an advantage fighting alone, but the combination of the 2, one for a feint attack and the other for a sneak attack, gave Li Tai the advantage. But now facing Jiang Wang, Li Tai felt for the first time that the moves could greatly enhance combat power. To use the words from the previous life's game, Li Tai's skill mechanism is excellent, but Jiang Wang's template and operation are several versions ahead of him. This resulted in that even though they had crossed a major level, Li Tai could only fight Jiang Wang to an even stalemate for a while, and he dared not let his guard down or escape, otherwise he would surely face a violent storm of combos. But is that all there is to 2nd grade monks? Li Tai's expression straightened and he shouted angrily. Don't be so arrogant, boy. Chapter 77. Li Tai slashed hard with his sword, temporarily slowing down Jiang Wang's offensive. Jiang Wang was hit and slid back 2 steps in the air. He let out a light breath, raised his sword and was about to attack again. This battle was extremely exciting. Li Tai's strength was not strong, but he was definitely not as strong as the Bauhenia Lion King. But he was not weak either, as he was a human being after all, and had many more changes than the bloody black tortoise. He used 2 short swords well, threatening to break the deadlock. An ordinary 3rd grade would have found it difficult to resist his attack with 2 swords. However, his most fatal problem comes. As a 2nd grade player, Li Tai has high agility but low attack power. What I mean is that in a head-on fight, Li Tai is not much stronger than Jiang Wang, which can also be considered as the advantage of a martial artist. But in terms of speed, Li Tai was indeed very fast. If it weren't for the high level of Jiang Wang's sword Dao, every sword would have hit Li Tai's weak points, forcing him to focus on defense and unable to make an effective counterattack. This is the ideal way for a low-quality player to defeat a high-quality player, using one's own strengths to attack the enemy's weaknesses. However, Jiang Wang must have never really faced a 2nd grade monk, as those warcraft were destined to be different from humans. This nearly cost him his life. Li Tai's expression condensed. Seeing Jiang Wang attacking again, he pinched the magic formula in his hand, and a stream of cocky true qi instantly enveloped Jiang Wang. Jiang Wang was attacking at high speed, but when he saw a stream of yellow true qi coming at him, he quickly dodged to the side. But this true qi was incredibly fast and surrounded him in the blink of an eye, and the pain he had imagined did not occur. Jiang Wang was stunned. What is this? Just as he was about to continue the pursuit, suddenly a huge force pressed down on his shoulders. Jiang Wang's figure suddenly fell from the air, as if he was hit from above. Li Tai obviously would not miss this opportunity. Holding two knives, he chased after Jiang Wang's falling figure. Bang boom, two loud noises were heard from the dust at the crash site. Liu Xiao waved her lotus arm, and dozens of flying needles were thrown out, forcing the four elders to retreat. Taking advantage of the gap, her beautiful eyes looked in the direction of Jiang Wang worriedly. The floating cloud shoes under his feet flashed with light, and the formation appeared, and he was about to fly over to provide support. Whoosh! As soon as she moved, a silver-white light flashed before her eyes, almost cutting through her beautiful face. Hey hey hey! A lewd laugh was heard, and Elder Wu, dressed in the attire of an outer sect disciple, slowly flew into the air, looking at Liu Xiao with a grim smile on his face. Ms. Liu, you can't go there. You have to accompany us to have fun. Liu Xiao frowned and looked solemnly at the fourth elder and Elder Wu who were surrounding her. She had just pursued the fourth elder too deep into the interior of the Wushan sect. The imperial guards were still far from reaching this place, and she was now alone. This is also the drawback of the military formation. Although the strength of the general who is the center of the formation can be improved after the formation is formed, the military formation is a whole. If it exceeds the scope of the military formation, the strength of the center of the formation will be restored. Most soldiers are only low-level martial artists. How can they possibly follow high-level martial artists to chase the enemy? Therefore, the greatest role of the military formation is to bombard the two armies and attack the city. However, if it escalates into a tug-of-war, the power of the military formation cannot be exerted. Let me go, and I can spare your lives. Although Liu Xiao has naive ideals, she is definitely not a soft-hearted person. She knows that she cannot be delayed here and must kill. Ha ha ha, little girl, do you really think you are a high and mighty phoenix? Our sect master is a second grade and has mastered a rule. Let me tell you, that brat is dead. Whoosh! A silver needle flew past Elder Wu's beard, scaring him so much that he broke out in a cold sweat. Young lady, you are courting death. Old four, come together. The two men surrounded her, and Liu Xiao spread her wings, activated the floating cloud shoes frantically, and escaped. Li Tai waved his hand to blow away the dust and stared at the hole under his feet. If this move succeeds, this guy will be dead. I have to plan my escape quickly. Now that the eldest son of the Jiang family is dead, Jiang Wushan will definitely go crazy. Although he is also a second grade, he has been promoted for many years and is expected to be stronger than me. Just as he was about to fly away, a burst of laughter was heard. Elder Li, don't leave. We haven't fought enough yet. Jiang Wang grabbed the edge of the hole with one hand and crawled out of the hole that was blasted out. His dark blue clothes were torn into strips, revealing his snow-white muscles like a baby's. Li Tai's eyebrows jumped and he couldn't help but exclaimed. Why aren't you dead? No, my law should still be in effect, why are you still able to move? Jiang Wang stood up, pulled out the Juxiao sword that was stuck in the ground when it fell, covered his right shoulder with his left hand, moved his arm, and with a series of clicks, his dislocated right arm was reset. I had to endure it in such a hurry that my right arm was dislocated. However, Li Tai's attack power is really low. He only dislocated one arm after being hit head-on. I feel that even if it is for his body, with his current third-grade perfect supreme bone, he should be able to withstand it. Oh, you mean the huge gravity just now? I've adapted to it. What? Li Tai exclaimed and looked at Jiang Wang in disbelief. What nonsense are you talking about? My law of gravity can exert a gravity of 3,000 kilograms on you. How can you still stand steadily? Jiang Wang picked his ears and looked at Li Tai with disdain. Ah, this is your rule. I thought it was some kind of drug. No way, buddy, you've never dealt with a martial artist before, isn't weight training the basis? I could do a handstand with a weight of 1,000 pounds before 5th grade, and yours only weighs 3,000 pounds, are you kidding me? Jiang Wang actually has some cognitive errors there. Indeed, the Jiang family has been doing weight training since he was a child. Especially when Jiang Wang made mistakes, he would be punished by running with weights or even standing upside down. However, it may be that his predecessor had never noticed it, and only he and Jiang Xing were doing these trainings, while others either had no access to them or might have preconceived notions that they were all the same. They ignored the fact that this strong body that could be trained without restraint without causing any disease was actually exclusive to the Jiang family. It is just like a bald man in a certain other world. Although he cannot breathe and become stronger, his body strengthened by supreme bone allows him to be ravaged and trained at will without affecting his growth or causing any hidden disease that prevents him from growing taller. Therefore, Jiang Wang believes that all martial artists train their bodies in this way. And these 3,000 kilograms do have weight on him and will affect his speed, but it is far from enough to suppress him and make it difficult for him to move. Alas, sect leader Li, I didn't say that. People's talents are indeed different. Even if they are all second grade, your understanding of the law is simply useless. I know an old man who practices Confucianism and Taoism. His law is time. How awesome is that? Look at you. Your gravity is only 3,000 kilograms. It's useless. All the resources spent on training you to become a second grade are wasted. You are a complete waste. When Li Tai heard this, it seemed that something had touched his reverse scale. His eyes instantly turned red, anger surged, and his hair stood on end. You little BD, I will definitely kill you. Whoosh, Li Tai rushed down towards Jiang Wang who was standing at the edge of the cave. Hey, I finally took the bait. I'm not afraid that you won't be angry, I'm just afraid that you will be calm. Jiang Wang raised his eyebrows and suppressed the joy on the corners of his mouth. Chapter 78. The morning mist dissipated, and the sunlight shone on the gate of Wushan sect, making the blood look so bright. The Wushan sect's front line continued to decline, retreating again and again. Most of the outer disciples had no intention of resisting, and the imperial army marched in like a whirlwind, slaughtering everyone along the way. Li Tai swooped down from the air, holding two short knives horizontally in front of his eyes with his backhand, and a loud sound of breaking through the air was heard. However, Jiang Wang seemed to be intimidated by the pressure and stood at the entrance of the cave in a daze. He only had time to raise the sword in his hand to resist. A smile appeared on Li Tai's lips. It turns out that this guy was just bragging. He can't walk now after carrying a weight of 3,000 kilograms. Under such powerful force from me, his legs must have gone weak and he would have knelt down and begged for mercy immediately. The distance between the two was closing rapidly, but Li Tai did not slow down at all, and he was determined to kill Jiang Wang. As for Jiang Wushan's revenge, haha, Jiang Wang ignored the agreement between the sect and the court and started a war without authorization. Wushan sect rose up in resistance and killed the traitor. All we need to do after the war is tie the Wushan sect to the Empress's chariot and make it a sect of the Zhuohuang faction, and then there will be nothing to worry about. In fact, the sect forces are not completely united. There are three main claims. One is the radical faction, which argues that the sects are already strong enough and have shaken the foundation of Dixuan. In order to protect themselves, all sects should unite and jointly resist the unequal treaties of the court and keep each other warm. This idea is the most common. The second type is the royalists, who believe that the sect should be dependent on the dynasty and cooperate with the court for mutual benefit. However, their purpose is not simple. What they want is promotion and advancement, so that the people in the sect can have hereditary titles and privileges like court officials. The third type is relatively rare. Their main idea is non-contention, also known as the slacking off faction. They do not want to fight for the ownership of the world, nor do they want to rely on the court for life. They just want to retire to the mountains and forests to practice meditation. But at the same time, they are not willing to make any contribution to Dixuan. For them, the change of dynasties means a new emperor and new ministers. It does not matter who is in charge. The most representative one is the Tai Shangjian sect, which has this kind of thinking. However, if you ask which one Jiang Wang hates the most among these three, he will definitely choose the third one. You say that you are not interested in competing with the world and have good combat power, that is, you don't want to contribute to the court or the sect, but you enjoy the natural resources of Dixuan, absorb the people of Dixuan to the mountains, and are protected by Dixuan. If you say that it has nothing to do with you, you are dreaming. Jiang Wang disdains this kind of people the most. Let's not talk about the sex system for now. Seeing Li Tai approaching, Jiang Wang stood at the entrance of the cave and took 2 steps back. Seeing that the distance was almost right, he gently inserted the Juxiao sword in his hand at his feet. Golden runes appeared from the sword and slid to the ground like flowing water. Li Tai didn't notice this detail at all at the moment. He was already immersed in the thrilling fantasy of killing Jiang Wang with his own hands. Hehe, Sect Master Li, let me let you experience the taste of Zishan County. Contemptuous words came out of Jiang Wang's mouth, and he raised the corner of his mouth slightly. At the moment when Li Tai was about to chop him, he dodged backwards at an extremely fast speed and barely avoided it. A few strands of hair were cut off by Li Tai, as if some mechanism had been triggered. A dazzling red light suddenly burst out from the hole in the ground. Li Tai's pupils constricted, but because he was diving too fast, his figure was rushing into the cave due to inertia. With his teeth clenched and his true chi surging, he was able to hold his ground before falling deeper into the cave, and he flew towards the cave entrance at all costs. However, when he was rejoicing that he had escaped the explosion in the cave, he suddenly found that a dim light curtain covered him at the entrance of the cave. The city defense formation. How could it be in reverse? Boom! As soon as he exclaimed, a huge explosion sounded and a red light engulfed his figure. Jiang Wang stood a few dozen meters away from the cave entrance, watching the explosion in the light curtain calmly. This was a trap he had set up long ago for Su Chongqing and the others. During the 3 days of preparation, he did not act like a fool and allow the Wushan sect to set up defenses. Do you remember the formation base soul stone he brought with him when he went north? Because it was not used in Zishan County, he gave the soul stone to Su Chongqing and brought it to Wushan sect. The mission of Su Chongqing and the others is not only to destroy the Wushan sect's city defense formation, but also a covered mission to use the spirit stone stored in the formation and cooperate with the soul stone to make a small reverse city defense formation. It is similar to the formation in Zishan County that does not defend against the outside but only against the inside. Because they had been training with Liu Xiao for a long time, Su Chongqing and the others were able to replicate the formation easily and even made the extra spirit stone into a detonator. As long as the formation is activated, the spirit stone inside will be detonated. That is to say, the warehouse of Wushan sect is not here. If there are more spirit stones, it might be able to directly blow through the entire mountain. Even so, the power of the explosion was astonishing. Although the aftermath was basically controlled and did not dissipate due to the isolation of the formation, the entire terrain at the center of the formation sank 3 to 5 meters. It was obvious that the huge power had blasted a cavity underground, and the entire terrain changed as if the cavity collapsed. Looking at the shaky dim yellow light curtain, Jiang Wang guessed that even if Li Tai didn't die, he would be seriously injured. He could temporarily get away and deal with other high-quality martial artists first. Feeling the power of the laws on his body lighten, as if the 3,000 kilograms of weight had dissipated, Jiang Wang looked up and observed the battles in the distance. Seeing that Liu Xiao was engaged in a bitter fight, he did not stay for long. A breeze blew past his feet, and he used the power of Confucianism to rise with the wind. A little bit of vast righteousness chi, 1,000 miles of pleasant wind. After reciting a line of poetry about hurrying on the road, Jiang Wang disappeared in an instant. And in the light curtain where dust and smoke were rolling, a hand that had been blown away with flesh and skin removed, revealing white bones, slapped the light curtain with a bang. Black thread-like things crawled out from the gaps between the white bones and slowly pierced the light curtain. After a ripple, several small holes appeared on the light curtain. Elder Wu was in a state of distress at the moment. He didn't know what kind of martial arts Liu Xiao was practicing, and all kinds of strange mechanisms kept appearing. Furthermore, he seemed tireless, and his specific realm could not be discerned. He would suddenly attack from the peak of the lower 3 grades, and suddenly reach less than the 4th grade, and sometimes even worse than the 5th grade. However, it is impossible to judge the power of each of her attacks based on her chi, and one can only guess based on a sense of crisis. For a moment, the two of them joined forces but were unable to take down this little girl. Damn it, don't run away, little girl. When I catch you, I will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Elder Wu yelled. Liu Xiao seemed to have heard Elder Wu's shouting and cursing, and became angry. She stopped running and turned around to face the attack of the two men. Elder Wu's face lit up with joy, a gloomy smile appeared on the corners of his mouth, and the cold light on the dagger in his hand became even stronger. Go to hell, little girl. After you die, I will publicize how you harmed Zishan County. With a flash of cold light, a young life was lost. Chapter 79. The fourth elder stopped in his tracks and barely avoided the flash of cold light. His Adam's apple felt itchy and he swallowed hard. Elder Wu still maintained the posture of moving forward, but his line of sight was inexplicably getting lower and lower. Why can't I feel the weapon in my hand? What's going on? My neck is itchy. The head slowly fell from the neck, and Elder Wu showed a look of horror. Dead, I am already dead. Why am I still conscious? I don't want to die. I haven't. After Elder Wu's consciousness fell into darkness, the fourth elder turned around and fled without hesitation. But running away means exposing your weakest back to the enemy. Jiang Wang disappeared again, and in a few moves, he was already behind the fourth elder. Ah! No, don't chase me. Why would I mess with this kind of person? Li Tai, you really deserve to die. Puff. Jiang Wang was clinging to the back of the fourth elder, and the Juxiao sword had already penetrated his body from behind. The ferocious mysterious energy rushed into his body in an instant, instantly crushing all his organs. Blood flowed out from the four elders' 7 orifices. In just a glance, the 2 masters who had suppressed Liu Xiao for a long time were killed. Cousin, are you almost reaching 2nd grade? Even after seeing it once, it still feels incredible. There is a gleam in Liu Xiao's beautiful eyes, as if it is unbelievable. My cousin, who used to be unlearned, not only made rapid progress in his martial Dao practice, but now he also has an extraordinary sense of righteousness in his body. My cousin, who didn't want to read a book when he was a child and never had a teacher, seems to have become a Confucian and Taoist scholar of a high level. Is she dreaming? Jiang Wang swung the Juxiao sword in his hand and said lightly. No, it will take a few months. What's the matter? A few months. Liu Xiao complained in her heart that other people's cultivation was calculated by years, so even if they were about to make a breakthrough, they would still need 3 or 4 years to accumulate experience. You've been fooling around these past few months. Thinking that Jiang Wang must be joking, after all, the war was urgent at the moment, Liu Xiao restrained her smile and said seriously. Cousin, is the leader of the Wushan sect trapped by the formation? Jiang Wang shuddered when he heard this, and his whole body trembled when he thought of the shocking explosion just now. Really, you can never mess with scientists. You should know that spirit stone is a very stable mineral in nature. Even if you want to use the energy in it, you need a complex formation to transform it. My goodness, I wonder what Liu Xiao gave to Su Chongqing and the others that could actually set up a small-scale nuclear explosion? If the formation went wrong and failed to reverse and trap Li Tai, I'm afraid half of the Wushan sect would be flattened. Ah, we're trapped. Go help your friends first and don't bring unnecessary casualties to the soldiers. Liu Xiao looked towards the smoke-filled Wushan sect with reluctance. After only half an hour of fierce fighting, the air was already filled with a strong smell of blood. With a nod, the 2 of them galloped towards several battlefields. Elder Baiyu, you can't leave. You have to take care of the overall situation for the section. Deacon Ma knelt on the ground, crying and shouting, stopping the silent fairy's steps. Under her silk skirt, her fair jade feet were held tightly in his hands. The silent fairy frowned slightly, disgusted by the man's touch, and was forced to take 2 steps back to avoid him. The little mouth opened slightly and a cold voice came out. Deacon Ma, Baiyu does not understand the management of the sect. Now that we are facing external enemies, I must first ensure the safety of my junior brother. Deacon Ma was crying and snotting, and he refused to let the silent fairy go. Elder Baiyu, the life and death of the sect leader is unknown, and the other elders are also in danger. What if they are killed? We still need a strong man who can take charge of the situation and negotiate on behalf of Wushan sect. Elder. Before his death, the old sect master kept telling us that we must ensure that the Wushan sect's inheritance continues. If the Wushan sect is destroyed, the old sect master's life's hard work will be gone. Elder Baiyu, you can't leave. I know you have a high level of cultivation. Before Li Tai was promoted to 2nd grade, you were the best master in the sect. Now that we are in danger, you have to stand up and protect the weak like us. A group of hall masters and deacons gathered together to block the door, chattering. That's right, Elder Baiyu, you have to stand up. You are the eldest disciple of the old sect master, how can you be the first to run away? That's right. The silent fairy gritted her teeth. When she had lost her power, these people avoided her like the plague, but now that they were in danger, they asked her to stand up again. But what Deacon Ma said was also true. After all, this was the life's work of his master. If it were to be destroyed, how would he have the face to see his master in the afterlife? But the safety of my junior brother. Senior sister. Let's stay. Han Feiyu suddenly stood up and said, his eyes full of fighting spirit. This is the hard work of master. Second senior brother has already sacrificed himself for the section. I want to avenge him. Seeing Han Feiyu so excited, Fairy Baiyu opened her mouth but ultimately did not tell the truth. He sighed and nodded silently. Okay, Deacon Ma, I will take charge of the situation for the time being. What is the current situation of casualties among the sect's disciples? Deacon Ma was delighted to hear this. As long as someone could stand up and take the blame, he would be willing to cooperate. So, he hurriedly took out a jade talisman and checked it. It has been confirmed, 3 of the 5 elders have been killed, 60% of the outer disciples' soul lamps have been extinguished, and 30% of the inner disciples' soul lamps have been extinguished. The front line has now retreated to the inner city, and the enemy's offensive is still fierce. Fairy Baidu fell into deep thought. It seemed that the Wushan sect now had no capital to negotiate with the other party. Both their high-end combat power and ordinary soldiers were not on the same level at all. After a moment's silence, the silent fairy asked. Deacon Ma, do you have any idea to make the enemy stop their offensive and sit down to negotiate with us? When the question was raised, the hall master and deacons who had been shouting just now fell silent. Why, you didn't say anything when I asked you to give suggestions. Didn't you shout quite loudly just now? Han Feiyu stood up and looked at the Wushan sect managers who usually ignored his fellow apprentices and brothers, and sneered. If we have a way, why would we look for you? That's right, you little brat who hasn't even fully grown his hair yet, if you have the guts, come up with a solution. That's right. The noisy and chaotic sounds started again, and chaos was about to break out. Who said I have no solution? The young man's clear voice instantly silenced the chaotic crowd. The young man turned around, looked into the eyes of the silent fairy, and spoke word by word. Sister, I have a solution. Push out all the people and servants in the inner city and use them to block the gate. The other party is from the imperial court and will not attack civilians. This way, there will be an opportunity for negotiation. Chapter 80. When Han Feiyu said this, everyone in the audience gasped. How cruel! This guy is really vicious. He can come up with such a vicious plan. The silent fairy frowned and shook her head. Feiyu, this cannot be done. Swords are ruthless on the battlefield. Even if the enemy really does not want to kill civilians, the impact of the army and the trampling of the people in panic will cause countless casualties. Not to mention being affected by the aftermath of the battle. But Han Feiyu obviously doesn't think so. Sister, extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. If we had not made the decision to sacrifice our chariot to save our chariot, our Wushan sect would have been destroyed today. They are just some ordinary people. Even if some of them die, as long as we are willing to give them shelter, it won't be long before another group of civilians will rush into the city. Fairy Baidu looked at him in surprise, as if she had just met her junior brother for the first time today. Han Feiyu saw that his senior sister was looking at him as if he were a stranger, so he chuckled and explained. Senior sister, don't look at me like that. I am just seeking benefits and avoiding harm, and I am proposing the most reliable method at the moment. On one side are the lives of more than 100,000 disciples of Wushan sect, and on the other side are hundreds of thousands of unfamiliar civilians. What do you think you should choose? The problem was thrown back to the silent fairy. Sighing, the fairy said in embarrassment. We shouldn't have let the fate of our disciples be decided by the enemy, but there is no better way now. Deacon Ma, let's arrange it this way. These words seemed to have exhausted all her strength. The silent fairy turned and walked into the room. The people who remained in the hall looked at each other in surprise. Deacon Ma came up to Han Feiyu with a wry smile. Feiyu, hey, look, your senior sister has gone back to rest, how are we going to implement this specific plan? Han Feiyu chuckled and glanced sideways at Deacon Ma who was trying to please him. Why, now you don't think I'm a brat anymore? Deacon Ma chuckled and rubbed his palms. How could that be possible? I was just joking, Feiyu. I understand that your sister has no intention of becoming the head of the sect. In the future, all matters of Wushan sect, big or small, will still depend on you, Feiyu. Ha ha ha, that makes sense. Ha ha ha. Happy laughter suddenly rang out in the meeting room. In the outer city of Wushan sect, after helping Lu Saiyao to deal with the 2 third-grade elders, Jiang Wang first went to help the leader of the Thunder Department to deal with the 3rd grade they were holding back. But when he arrived, he was surprised to find that the 3rd-grade elder was covered with wounds and had a weak breath. He was already at the end of his strength. The leader of the Thunder Department suffered minor injuries and the lives of more than 200 soldiers, and he dragged the 3rd elder to death. No wonder Dixuan was able to occupy the Central Plains and pass on its legacy for thousands of years. With the strength of this army, who would dare to confront Dixuan in a large-scale battle? So Jiang Wang rushed to Su Chongqing and the other two. He was not worried about these two people at all. As the proud sons of the sect, they could easily deal with two old men of the same level. After killing two more elders, the outer city of Wushan sect finally fell. When Jiang Wang breathed a sigh of relief and was ready to crush Wushan sect in one fell swoop, the leader of the fire department came in a hurry. The man's armor was now stained with blood, and he looked murderous, with several deep scars on his arms. Young Master Jiang, our troops have already reached the inner city gate. The Wushan sect is a bunch of bastards who don't care about morality. They have forced all the people in the inner city to retreat and serve as human shields, while they themselves are hiding behind the city walls and shooting arrows from behind. What should we do, young Master Jiang? Should we just... The fire tribe leader made a throat-cutting gesture as he spoke, and glanced at Liu Xiao vaguely, also paying attention to her reaction. As expected, Liu Xiao's face darkened, her beautiful eyes slightly tilted, staring at Jiang Wang out of the corner of her eye. Jiang Wang smiled slightly, reached out and patted his cousin's back gently. Why are they looking at me like that? They are not stupid. They are using this opportunity to threaten me. Let's go and see what terms they can come up with to negotiate with me. There is now quite a bit of chaos going on within the inner city of Wushan sect. The crowd outside the city was pushing and shoving, and the sounds of crying, yelling, and calling for help were endless. People looked in horror at the soldiers in armor and weapons not far away, the murderous aura on them was chilling. Woo-woo! Let us in, open the door, why are you kicking us out? Open the door, you bastards! Please, let me in. I'll do anything for you. In the face of a life and death crisis, human nature has long lost its humility and rationality. There is looting and chaos, and everyone has only one goal, which is to open the door and let themselves go in first. People outside the city are complaining bitterly, but are people inside the city any better off? Several disciples who escaped into the inner city collapsed and sat down under the city wall, covering their ears and crying. Some were so emotional that they ran towards the city gate like crazy to open it for the people outside, but they were suppressed by the even more cold-blooded inner disciples. Qian-san saw that he could open the city gate and a look of joy appeared on his face, but he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his abdomen and flew backwards. Holding his aching abdomen, Qian-san knelt on the ground, green juice spurting out of his mouth. Ahem, Senior Brother Lu, why don't you let the people in? The man called Senior Brother Lu had an indifferent expression on his face. He brushed the dust off his boots and spoke righteously. Qian-san, what are you talking about? The lives of fellow apprentices in the city are all at stake, yet you want to open the city gate to save a bunch of untouchables. Are you crazy? Qian-san struggled to stand up, veins bulging on his neck, and he roared with a ferocious face. What do you mean by untouchable? I only know that my mother is still out there. Senior Brother Liu's face turned cold and he gave a look. Two strong inner disciples walked up, restrained Qian-san's arms, and lifted him up. Qian-san certainly wanted to resist, but these people were elites selected from the outer sect and promoted to inner sect disciples. They had higher cultivation than them, the outer sect disciples. Not to mention that he had been through a day of fighting and was now exhausted. As for these inner disciples, they had been hiding in the inner city for defense and had never had a direct battle with the imperial guards. Bang! Another heartbreaking kick landed on Qian-san's chest. As if throwing away garbage, the disciples who were holding him on both sides let go. Qian-san curled up on the ground, holding his abdomen with snot and tears flowing uncontrollably. He didn't care about the dust on the ground and opened his mouth wide to breathe with difficulty. You, what right do you have to attack us? We contributed the most to defending the city and suffered the most casualties. Why do you hide in the city and are safe, but let our families go to the battlefield? This is too much. None of the elders, deacons, and hall masters of the sect have come forward to explain. Why do they want us outer disciples to sacrifice ourselves? Yes, that's right. Why should we be the first to fight? These people are clearly powerless, how can we let them block us outside the city? Following the support of a female disciple, the outer disciples became infuriated and started to curse at each other. The inner disciples were of course unwilling to admit defeat and started to curse at each other as well. So, after a few words from you and me, some people started to touch the weapons. Damn it, we have to endure bullying from you guys all the time, and now that death is imminent, you want us to take the blame first, you are rebelling against them. Just as chaos was about to break out, a cool and pleasant sound, like an icy spring in a valley, spread throughout the inner city, calming the restlessness in people's hearts. I am the honorary elder of Wushan sect, and I am here to preside over the situation. Please remain calm. Chapter 81. Outside the inner city of Wushan sect, Jiang Wang looked at the bustling crowd with interest. After a while, as if he felt it was boring, he turned his head and looked directly at Su Chongqing. Does Wushan sect still have high-ranking cultivators? Su Chongqing was silent for a moment after hearing this, then spoke hesitantly. Since young Master Jiang said so, there must be a few high-ranking ones who are not up to par. However, the only one who can lead the entire inner city should be the one known as the Silent Fairy. Oh! Jiang Wang's eyes lit up when he heard this. The name Baidu Fairy sounded very familiar. This person is another confidant that Lin Ping'an met when he was traveling around the world. She is a major fighting force around late-stage Lin Ping'an. Among those of the same level in second grade, her cultivation is among the best. Why is she here? Yes, in the original novel, the plan of Wushan sect should have been successful. Given her personality, if she knew that Wushan sect had done such a heinous thing, she would definitely not want to go along with it. I just don't know why she is only third grade now. It would be better to take this opportunity to get rid of her. As for the heroines who licked Lin Ping'an crazily in the original novel, Jiang Wang would rather kill the wrong one than let him go. Humph, I really underestimated them for coming up with such a vicious idea. Do you really think I would be afraid of these civilians and not dare to take action? Jiang Wang looked stern. Seeing him acting like this, Liu Xiao tightly grasped her blue skirt with both hands. Inside the city, just as the Silent Fairy was comforting her disciples and rallying the troops, a man's voice came from outside the city. Listen everyone inside, put down your weapons and surrender immediately. I will leave your bodies intact. Otherwise, the imperial guards will massacre the Wushan sect. The Silent Fairy's expression sank. She stood on the city wall and looked at the man in the distance. A strong sense of fear arose spontaneously. I am definitely no match for this person. Fei Yu, what do you think we should do now? Will the other party really negotiate with us for the sake of civilians? Her beautiful eyes stared at her junior fellow apprentice Han Feiyu, her eyes full of worry. Han Feiyu bit his lip, thought for a moment and said decisively. Don't worry, as long as we refuse to open the door, they will definitely agree to negotiate for fear of accidentally hurting civilians. The Silent Fairy nodded, and then spoke loudly in a cold voice. Master Jiang, our Wushan sect wants to sit down and have a good talk with Master Jiang. We can pay a price to ask you to withdraw your troops. She clenched her teeth. She was once a darling of heaven, how could she have been so humble before? But now the knife is at her neck, and she, the white swan, can no longer be proud. Oh, Jiang Wang chuckled. It seems that you still don't understand your situation. What qualifications do you have to negotiate with me? Fire department, listen up, catapults fire. When Jiang Wang said this, several people around him were shocked. Su Chongqing and Li Muqing looked at Jiang Wang in surprise. With so many civilians trapped under the city wall, attacking at this time would be tantamount to massacring the city. They never expected that Jiang Wang would really give such an order. Several commanders who had been following Jiang Wang were very calm, even a little excited. A general who is not weak but has strength and courage is a blessing to his subordinates. Rather than being condemned by others, this kind of general cares more about the safety of his brothers. So, the three commanders turned around and left, preparing for the final attack. Cousin! Liu Xiao's eyes were slightly red, her face was full of panic, and her hands unconsciously pulled towards Jiang Wang's arm. Shut up, Liu Xiao, put away your saintly heart. We're at war now. Jiang Wang shook off Liu Xiao's hand and looked straight at the people crowded in front of the inner city. This scene now is so similar to the scene in Zishan County at that time, except that people now want to go into the city, but Zishan at that time couldn't leave. If you want to be soft-hearted, just ask the hundreds of thousands of people who died in Zishan County and their despair at the mouths of beasts. Liu Xiao was shocked and tears welled up in her eyes, as if she saw the cousin who deliberately distanced herself from her again. However, the war will not stop because of the unwillingness of one or two people. As the dazzling fireball flew into the sky, the people under the city wall stood still. They had forgotten to call for help or to escape, their pupils were filled with fear and despair. Boom! Huge rocks fell to the ground, causing the disciples in the city to fall down one after another. After the first wave of air strikes, the outer disciples struggled to get up, leaned on the city wall and looked down, their eyes bloodshot. It was a sea of blood and corpses. There was no chance of survival for these ordinary people without any cultivation under the huge rocks. The sight of broken limbs and charred corpses made them open their mouths wide but unable to utter a single roar. "Mom, that's my mom's position, Wivu, I am such an unfilial child." "Dad, run, I'll open the door for you." "That's right. Everyone unite and open the city gates. We surrender and will not fight anymore. Let the families take refuge in the city. Whoever wants to resist can go ahead. I will expel Wushan sect today." After the first wave of stones, the scene looked tragic, but in fact the number of casualties was not large, and Jiang Wang did not order continuous stone throwing to plow the land. Instead, he chose to use a tactic to attack the enemy's mind. "Since you think I will be afraid of accidentally hurting civilians, then I will shatter your fantasy and instead let the inner and outer disciples clash, and the gate of the inner city will fall without being attacked." The inner city is now in great chaos. Even though several hall masters and deacons killed the outer disciples who led the riot, the crowd was now outraged and the number of outer disciples was huge, so they rushed out of the city gate like crazy. "Sister, they have lost their minds now. We can only threaten them with force. You must kill anyone who dares to approach the city gate." Han Feiyu's eyes were filled with coldness, and he was indifferent to the lives of his disciples, as if he didn't care how many people would die from such an action. "Don't worry, since they stopped after just one wave of stone throwing, it means they are still afraid of accidentally hurting the people. As long as we refuse to surrender, our Wushan sect will not be completely defeated today." Seeing that his senior sister didn't say anything, Han Feiyu glanced sideways, only to discover that his senior sister was looking at him as if he were a stranger. Scratching his head, Han Feiyu said, "Sister, don't look at me like that. I am considering the future development of the sect. When you become the sect leader, you will need this group of people to help you consolidate your position." The silent fairy sighed and shook her head. "Fei Yu, you know I don't care about the position of the sect leader at all. Compared to this, what really hurts me is seeing my fellow disciples killing each other. Master once said that Wushan sect must be united both internally and externally, so that it can develop in the long run. Now it seems that we have made a mistake. These outer disciples have not yet severed their ties with their earthly relatives. We lost because we conquered their hearts. Let's surrender. If we let them continue to fight, the foundation of Wushan sect will be destroyed." After she finished speaking, Fairy Buletin Yu did not even look at Han Feiyu's expression. She rose into the air and shouted in a clear voice. "Young Master Jiang, stop it. We surrender." Chapter 82. In the inner city of Wushan sect, when the imperial guards entered the city, all the Wushan sect disciples with cultivation were controlled. Jiang Wang walked into the main hall of Wushan sect leisurely and sat down in Li Tai's seat. Now, all the leaders above the rank of deacon of Wushan sect gathered in the meeting hall, and Jiang Wang was followed by Lu Saiyao and the other two. The reason why Li Muir was not brought along was because he was worried about her safety. Swords have no eyes, and as one of the few people that Jiang Wang cares about, he deliberately left her in Zishan. She was also happy to rescue the wounded in Zishan. Compared to Lu Saiyao's saintly heart, Li Muir could actually empathize more with the suffering of the civilians. Zhang Feng and Zhang Yu were notified to pick up Muir. Jiang Wang was now sitting on a high platform, looking majestic without being angry. "Tell me, everyone, who are the masters of the Zishan County incident?" The silent fairy bit her lip, and seeing that no one came out to admit it, she spoke. Master Jiang, the mastermind behind the incident in Zishan County was sect leader Li Tai. Now he is missing, and we, the subordinates and disciples, are actually unaware of it. What a ignorance! Do you think you can absolve so many people of their guilt with just a simple ignorance? Jiang Wang said this and winked at Su Chongqing, who understood and hurried out of the hall. When Li Tai Jiang Wang was mentioned, he remembered that this guy was still trapped in the magic circle, and he didn't know whether he was alive or dead. Although he was not worried that he would run out, he still had to go and keep an eye on him to confirm. After saying this, Jiang Wang straightened his back and said seriously, "I won't beat around the bush. Such a large-scale plan must have mobilized a lot of Wushan sect's resources. Those outer disciples may not be aware of it, but I don't believe you, the management. I came here today to seek justice for the 173,213 people who died in Zishan County. Master Lu, come in." The hall suddenly became silent, with only the sound of Lu Jiangxing's footsteps being heard. There was still dried blood on Liu Jiangxing's armor, his hair was messy, but his eyes were bright. Young Master Jiang, all the inner disciples have been gathered on the training ground, kneeling in the direction of Zishan County. When these words were spoken, everyone in the room was shocked. Han Feiyu ignored the fairy Buletinu's obstruction, walked out of the crowd, clasped his fists and saluted. Young Master Jiang, many disciples really have no idea about this matter. Why don't we, the Wushan sect, contribute funds and use the resources accumulated over hundreds of years to help young Master Jiang rebuild Zishan County? To be honest, Jiang Wang was somewhat moved when he heard this. Once the Wushan sect is wiped out, all the sect's property, land, and assets will be confiscated by the imperial court. As for how much of it the court will allocate to Zishan County, it is unknown. It would be a good idea to leave some incense for Wushan sects so that they can rebuild Zishan. However, this person must not be a member of the original leadership team and must not be out of his control. So Jiang Wang chuckled. This brother is really insightful. All the suggestions he put forward are win-win. It's a pity that I have trouble sleeping recently. Jiang Wang said, standing up and looking into the distance. Every night in my dreams, I would dream of the blood-stained faces of the civilians and see the hopeful eyes of the soldiers. They were like knives stabbing my heart, keeping me awake every night. Upon hearing this, Liu Jianxing burst into tears. His hands were shaking and he unconsciously recalled his name on the last page of the list. They came here with the intention of dying, so how can they talk about a win-win situation? Blood debts must be paid with blood. I don't care about win-win situations. All those involved in this matter must die. Han Feiyu's pupils trembled, and he looked at Jiang Wang in great surprise. He had never expected this man's style of behavior. Are you going to exterminate my sect just because 170,000 mortals died? Han Feiyu said in a low, trembling voice. Jiang Wang nodded, a half-smile in his eyes. It is because of these hundreds of thousands of people that you have ended up like this. Judging from your tone, the idea of using civilians as human shields outside the inner city just now was you, right? Don't worry, I will remember you. The atmosphere in the hall instantly reached freezing point. The silent fairy looked solemn, with the true qi in her hands surging, as if she was ready to start a fight if there was any disagreement. Jiang Wang did not intentionally ban their cultivation after entering the city. In his opinion, as long as the imperial guards entered the city, he could connect the army formation to suppress any third grade, or even the general second grade, at any time. He hoped they would resist so he would have a better reason to kill them. Fortunately, Fairy Baihu was not a stupid person. She gritted her teeth and took back her true qi. She was certainly not a fool and would not harm so many people because of a momentary impulse. Suppressing her anger, the silent fairy no longer had the initial indifference between her brows. Master Jiang, what do you want? My Wushan sect has more than 100,000 inner and outer disciples. Do you really want to kill them all? Aren't you afraid of tarnishing your reputation? Reputation does have an impact on Jiang Wang. If he has the ambition to conquer the world, a bloodthirsty leader may find it difficult to win the support of the people. But Jiang Wang never believed that good and evil would be rewarded in the end. The principle he believed in more was to take revenge on the spot if he had the ability. So, would he really wait until his enemy got old, and then secretly pee on his tombstone by virtue of having lived longer than him? Liu Jiangxing's eyes were a little dim at this moment, and he stared blankly at the ground. Yes, what right did he have to ask his benefactor to avenge him? This was Zishan's own business and the court's business. It was already very shameful to involve King Jiang in it, and now he even wanted to tarnish Lord Jiang's reputation. This is absolutely not what he wants, nor is it what the people of Zishan County want to see. Liu Jianxing. Jiang Wang spoke calmly, as if he was talking about a trivial matter. Liu Jiangxing's brows trembled slightly, and he bowed and saluted. Behead all the inner sect members and managers of Wushan sect and display their heads in public. Pile their heads up in the Jingguan temple to commemorate the souls of the 170,000 people of Zishan. After these words were spoken, everyone present was stunned for a moment. Liu Jiangxing's fists were shaking, and a bloodthirsty smile appeared on his lowered face. Promise. Liu Jianxing turned around and walked out of the hall with a knife in his hand, walking like a dragon or a tiger without any hesitation. At this moment, the council hall exploded. The hall masters and deacons, who usually hold high positions and order their disciples around, are now in a panic and wish they had two more legs. Bang! The door of the council hall slammed shut and the candlesticks were blown out by a gust of wind. The hall was suddenly dark. Jiang Wang was like a ghostly blood shadow, flashing in enchanting brilliance among the crowd. Plop, plop. The hall was in chaos, accompanied by the crowd's panic, shouts, and pleas for mercy, with the sound of people falling to the ground and round objects rolling down from time to time. Fairy Baihu held the sword tightly in her hand, protecting Han Feiyu behind her, and stared at the bloody shadow in the darkness with a wary look on her face. It's too fast, it's really too fast. Jiang Wang himself may not realize that his current body movement speed is already able to deal with second grade and completely crush those at the same level. When the door of the council hall was pushed open again, what came into the eyes of the silent fairy were corpses lying on the ground and a man with blood on his face and a weird smile on his face. This. Wait a minute. A streak of snow-white sword light lingered on the delicate neck of the silent fairy, suppressing the words she was about to say. The voice that made him stop the sword in his hand came from Han Feiyu, who was hiding behind the silent fairy. Han Feiyu looked a little pale at the moment, but he still pretended to be calm, walked out from behind the silent fairy, and looked directly at Jiang Wangdao. Master Jiang, if we can make 3 promises on behalf of Wushan sect, can you spare our lives? Both of them are handsome young men. At this moment, they are staring at each other with burning eyes, but their status are very different. Chapter 83. Inside the Wushan sect's meeting hall, dim sunlight shone on a pool of blood. A man who definitely didn't look like a good guy was raising his sword and placing it on the silent fairy's fair neck. At this moment, Liu Xiao's face was pale, and her eyes were full of pity. In the end, she couldn't resist the impulse in her mind, and walked forward to hold Jiang Wang's arm. Cousin, let's hear what he has to say. Jiang Wang shook his head, retracted the sword in his hand, stared at the young man, and said with interest. Tell me, what 3 promises can you make to me? Han Feiyu heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. He had made the right bet. He was betting that Jiang Wang was not a brainless warrior, but rather an ambitious ruler who was thoughtful, could weigh the pros and cons, and was ambitious. After looking deeply at his senior sister, and seeing Fairy Baihu nod, Han Feiyu said seriously. Now that all the Wushan sect's managers have been killed by Lord Jiang, what senior sister and I say can represent the overall direction of the Wushan sect in the future? We can promise Jiang Shao that, first, Wushan sect will pay taxes every year from today onwards, and the amount of tax paid will be no less than any other local county based on the sect's population. Secondly, on behalf of Wushan sect, we hereby acknowledge the crimes committed by the previous sect master against Zishan County, and will assume the responsibility for the aftermath of Zishan County and rebuild Zishan County. Third, Wushan sect will open its doors from today on. There will no longer be a distinction between inner and outer sect disciples within the sect. Everyone will be treated equally. Anyone can choose to come to Wushan sect to receive enlightenment and learn true qi. Wushan sect disciples can choose to leave the sect at any time to develop freely. We will not stop them. After making these 3 promises, Han Feiyu secretly looked at Jiang Wang's expression. Seeing that he had not changed at all, he panicked and thought he had made a wrong bet. He originally thought that these 3 reform proposals, which were most directly aimed at the relationship between the sect and the court, would be the best promise for someone like Jiang Wang who was dedicated to serving the country and the people. No sect would agree to these 3 requests unless it was facing life and death. Because as time goes by, the sect that meets these 3 requirements will no longer be unique, and Wushan sect will become a talent training center for the imperial court, and will exist in name only. But Jiang Wang's current expression made him very unsure. A general who went up the mountain to massacre the city for the sake of the people, a young warrior who overpowered the second grade, a man who could write war poems with a wave of his hand and could cause corpses to fall all over the room while he was laughing and talking, isn't it really because he is pursuing such a great cause that he does this? Seeing that Jiang Wang didn't answer, Han Feiyu quickly added. Of course, this is just an explanation to the court. We, Wushan sect, will also compensate Lord Jiang personally. Taking a deep breath, Han Feiyu gritted his teeth. From now on, Wushan sect will obey the orders of the Jiang family. My 2 brothers and sisters will follow Master Jiang's lead and are willing to swear an oath to the Heavenly Dao. The Wushan clan is willing to hand over nearly 10 years of savings to help Lord Jiang heal his wounds and reward the soldiers. We also ask Lord Jiang and Miss Liu to forgive the mistakes made by Wushan sect and give us a chance to live. After saying this, Han Feiyu bowed and lowered his proud head. The silent fairy showed a look of reluctance, put away the surging true qi in her hand, and waited for the man's final decision. Han Feiyu still had some strategy in his words. He deliberately brought up Liu Xiao, a kind-hearted woman, in his final request, because he expected that Liu Xiao would come forward to help. Cousin, the culprit of Wushan sect has been killed. Why not, just leave it at that? If they are willing to swear an oath, it may be a good thing for Zishan. Jiang Wang took a deep look at Han Feiyu, chuckled and nodded. I don't like people who try to be clever. If you want to follow me, don't try to be clever. Your life and death does not depend on this girl's opinion, but on my mood and the bargaining chips you have brought out. Han Feiyu and Liu Xiao's expressions froze when they heard this, and they felt a little embarrassed. But I am satisfied with your bargaining chips. I have also heard of the name of the fairy Buletin Yu from passers-by. When she was young, she was also a chivalrous female hero. She should not go along with them. So, today's matter ends here. Remember your promise. What Jiang Wang said about having heard of the reputation of the fairy Baihu was pure nonsense. He had only been in Yuzhu for a short time, and he was purely trying to figure out Baihu's character based on the original novel. However, this punch did hit the waist of the silent fairy. For such a woman who is detached from the world, recognition of her reputation is more important than anything else. In this way, the resistance becomes less, and taking over the Wushan sect seems to be a foregone conclusion. In the future, Wushan sect may become a pilot project for the imperial court to test the way of accepting the returnees after military reunification. But this will inevitably take some time. At this moment, a loud noise was heard. A black flash streaked across the sky, leaving two ugly black scars on the sky. The strong vibration caused the entire Wushan mountain to tremble. The source of the vibration came from the outer city of Wushan sect. Jiang Wang frowned, and disappeared instantly. Liu Xiao and others looked at each other and hurriedly chased after him. There was a bad feeling lingering in his heart. As soon as he walked out of the inner city, a towering shadow appeared in front of him, causing Jiang Wang's pupils to shrink. There were dozens of thick black tentacles, swaying like willows in the wind. Su Chongqing covered his shoulders and struggled with the tentacles. His breath was intermittent and he was obviously close to exhaustion. Whoosh! A tentacle came down with a whoosh, and Su Chongqing reacted extremely quickly, dodging to the side. However, this monster was different from humans, and immediately another tentacle attacked Su Chongqing from a blind spot at an inhuman angle. Seeing that the attack was about to hit, Su Chongqing felt a chill in his heart. Boom! The tentacle slammed to the ground, raising a cloud of dust. Ahem, thank you, Mr. Jiang. But can you put it down first? Jiang Wang grabbed Su Chongqing by the back of the neck and floated just above the tentacles with a serious expression on his face, so much so that he ignored Su Chongqing's cries. With extreme speed, Jiang Wang was able to save Su Chongqing. At this moment, sweat broke out on his back and his hands couldn't help but pinch the back of Su Chongqing's neck. Young Master Jiang, this thing seems to have been broken out of the reversal formation. It was small at first and fled in all directions. I killed a few of them. Later, it kept devouring corpses and grew so big. You should be careful. Seeing the tentacles attacking again, Su Chongqing said anxiously. Jiang Wang hummed, raised his left arm slightly, and threw Su Chongqing towards Liu Xiao and others who were rushing over, and warned them. You three should keep watch over the silent two and stay away from me. Jiang Wang dodged the tentacles' attack again. He did not dare to be careless and directly mobilized the army's strength to concentrate on himself. The three imperial guards, listen to my order. Form a battle array and attack. Kill. Nearly 30,000 people shouted in unison and started to use a unique military secret method. Jiang Wang also changed the direction of the flying bear technique, reversing the connection and disconnection of the meridians, and switching to a direction that was more in line with the joint attack of the military formation. Chapter 84. The method of military formation was created by the concerted efforts of Zhang Wushan, Zheng Qiugong, and other battle-hardened generals. It has a unique effect on military personnel. With the military formation technique, even those with less talent can quickly master it and upgrade it to a higher level. However, the upper limit of promotion and the strength in single combat are weaker than those of other techniques. Therefore, most people with ordinary backgrounds and outstanding talents, such as Zhang Feng and Zhang Yu, may choose to join the army in the early stage. By showing their talents and efforts, they can practice the military formation skills to the level of the 5th grade in a very short time to win the attention of their superiors and leaders. In this way, you can obtain high-level skills, switch to high-level skills, and increase your upper limit. This is also the reason why Ming Ming, as the guard of the young master of the Jiang mansion, is not particularly powerful. Disciples from aristocratic families often practice a military formation technique as a supplement while practicing their own family's inherited skills. Although different skills require different meridians to be opened up, as long as they reach the 3rd grade and possess a strong recovery ability, they can move meridians and change meridians, which means they have the ability to fully utilize the military formation skills. In addition, the military formation techniques are actually divided into different factions due to the different founders at the time. For the Jiang family, the secret military formation exclusive to the Jiang family is the attack and kill formation, and the Imperial Guards, as Jiang Wuxian's direct unit, are second only to the Black Scale Guards. The coordination with Jiang Wang's military formation will reach a peak. Boom! A vast amount of mysterious energy gushed out, and Jiang Wang's entire body was dyed silver white, glittering and dazzling. For a moment, he had an illusion. At this moment, he is omnipotent and invincible. With just one sword, he can defeat an entire country and even the 1st grade. Look! A stern call woke him up from his mind. Jiang Wang shuddered violently, cold sweat dripping down his face unconsciously. Is this the after effect of the sudden surge in power? When your own strength doubles in an instant, you may feel a surge in confidence. What if it suddenly increases tenfold? You may unconsciously think that you are invincible, but in fact you are still a frog in a well. Jiang Wuxian had obviously anticipated this day, so he left this cry in Jiang Wang's mind to prevent him from losing himself in the power. Call. Fortunately, Dad had foresight. Silently thanking his cheap father for his care, Jiang Wang stared at the 10 tentacles that were retreating a little. This little thing is quite intelligent. It sensed that it is no match for its opponent now. Is it scared? When you slapped me just now, you didn't hesitate. With a serious look, Jiang Wang did not hesitate. The tip of the sword trembled slightly, and in an instant, he disappeared from the spot. 10 tentacles seemed to sense the threat and stretched out from the dark corners around and flew up. When Jiang Wang got closer to observe, he found that these tentacles looked disgusting and weird. They were covered with mucus and flashed with a faint blue light. Every time they stretched, they were accompanied by trembling and wriggling. They had no specific shape, but only stretched and wriggling, like some kind of sewer excrement, which was extremely disgusting. Jiang Wang is extremely fast, and his tentacles are also incredibly fast. The 10 tentacles cooperated with each other, winding and entangling, surrounding Jiang Wang like a spirit snake. But Jiang Wang was not in a hurry. His sword moved as his heart moved, and he followed the sword's shadow. He made exaggerated movements of his body and flexibly dodged the encirclement. The long sword in his hand would occasionally slash at the tentacles, making a metallic sound. The battle was extremely fierce, and the onlookers were terrified. Every time Jiang Wang passed through the gap between the tentacles, Liu Xiao would nervously hold Li Muking's arm tightly. After a few times, even Li Muking, who was at the 3rd grade level, was pinched so hard that her mouth opened wide. Xiao, be gentle. Ah, sorry. Mu Qing I didn't pay attention. Liu Xiao was obviously panicked and apologized to Li Muking repeatedly. Shaking her head, Li Muking looked at the woman with amusement. It turned out that she was also a little girl who would panic because of worry. Xiao, don't worry. Jiang. Young Master Jiang just watched the danger coming. In fact, every time he dodged, he did it just right, without wasting any extra energy. Simply put, he was just showing off in order to show off his exquisite swordsmanship. Liu Xiao blushed and reminded. Mu Qing, don't say bad words, Chongqing is still here. Li Muking rolled his eyes and smiled indifferently. It doesn't matter. This idiot doesn't like me anyway, so why should I pretend? Back to the battle, every time Jiang Wang fought with the tentacle monster, sparks flew. He remained calm from beginning to end, even though he had not caused any damage to the tentacle monster and the tentacle monster could not hit him. Finally, after a collision, the tentacles became sluggish for a moment. Jiang Wang seized the opportunity, condensed the shadow of a giant sword, and chopped it down with one sword. Snap! A sound of breaking was heard, and Jiang Wang did a backflip to avoid the tentacles' counterattack, staring coldly at the place where he had just been chopped. Now the giant sword in his hand has been broken, but the tentacles seem to be still unharmed. They have twisted their ugly bodies and stretched and retracted in the air. Puff! Several consecutive sounds of blood spurting were heard. Looking carefully, several soldiers with lower cultivation in the army formation had already overdrawn their profound energy, and their meridians were damaged and bleeding because of the high-intensity battle supporting Jiang Wang. Before Jiang Wang gave the order, the 3 commanders of the Imperial Guards gave the order at the same time. All troops, take the first heartbreaking pill. Heartbreaking pill. This pill was secretly developed by the Imperial Astronomical Observatory and made specifically for military officers and soldiers. To achieve its full medicinal effect, 3 pills need to be taken consecutively. The first pill, after taking it, will restore all the Xian Qi and increase the storage by 30%. The price is that you will fall into a weak state after 1 hour, and it will take half a day to recover depending on your physical condition. The second pill, after taking it, will restore all the Xian Qi and double the reserves, but the price is the rupture of the limbs and meridians. In severe cases, the patient will have no hope of advancing in cultivation in this lifetime. If one is lucky enough, the potential will be greatly reduced after the treatment. The third pill, after taking it, all the Xian Qi will be restored and the reserve will be increased 3 times. The price is that after 1 hour, the heart meridian will collapse, the danshan will spontaneously combust, and there will be no chance of survival. Here. It is within the territory of Dixuan. Here. It is my great Xian Yu's Hu. The people of this city are also the people of my great Xian. In that case, why hesitate? General, please fight hard. We are willing to burn our bodies for you. Jiang Wang retracted his gaze, and the hilt of the sword in his right hand made a creaking sound. Looking coldly at the squirming tentacles, Jiang Wang gritted his teeth secretly. No matter who you are, no matter who released you, today, I will kill you. There seemed to be some enlightenment in my heart, and a mysterious feeling came from the depths of my consciousness. I seemed to see the crack in the sternum again, and there seemed to be a man with a sword inside, constantly swinging the sword and slashing in the crack. Jiang Wang rubbed his conscious eyes unconsciously and looked carefully. That figure seemed somewhat familiar, but I couldn't remember who it was. I just felt like I had seen it somewhere. Master! We are here! A shout was heard, and Jiang Wang was awakened from consciousness. He looked up and found that it was Li Muir and the other 2 who came. Chapter 85. Muir, why are you here at this time? Jiang Wang was shocked and thought, oh no, isn't this the most classic routine in cool novels, where the protagonist doesn't explode, but instead uses a knife to stimulate the heroine? Sure enough, the black tentacle changed direction and stretched out its tentacles towards Li Muir and the other 2. Seeing this, Zhang Feng and Zhang Yu hurriedly guarded Li Muir with serious expressions. In desperation, Jiang Wang had to rush to help as quickly as possible. With his current speed, he might be able to catch up. However, would Li Muir be such a frivolous and careless woman? Of course not. When the huge tentacles approached the 3 people, Li Muir patted the shoulders of the 2 people in front of him, signaling them to move aside. Before the 2 could react, a snow-white, plump figure flew out. Little white bug, attack! It only took the blink of an eye for the little white worm to fly to the front of the black tentacles. The small body curled up slightly, and with a puff, a loud fart sounded, giving its body a powerful acceleration. The white figure disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant, and the 10 huge tentacles began to struggle in pain. The dark green scales rubbed against each other, making a harsh crackling sound, and green and sticky juice flowed out from the gaps, emitting a disgusting stench. After a while, bursts of black smoke emanated from the tentacles, and all 10 tentacles fell to the ground. 9 of them gradually shrank and withered until they retracted into the body of one of them. Whoosh! The little white bug flew back to Li Muir's shoulder, and pointed its fat tail at the black tentacle monster, as if it was explaining something. Finally, it used its tail to make a decapitation gesture at its neck. Was it indicating to chop off its head? At this moment, Jiang Wang also came to Li Muir, and seeing the little white worm being so brave, he couldn't help but ask. Muir, what is Xiaobai talking about? Is this monster dead? Li Muir thought for a moment and translated into human language. Xiaobai seems to mean that this is the real body of the insect, and those we just attacked were its incarnations with different limbs. Now Xiaobai has eaten all of its incarnations. Now its rank is much higher than Xiaobai's, so it can't eat its real body. I can only let you chop it down first. Be careful, this thing is very cunning. If you can't chop off its head, it will split into 2, 2 into 4, and then more and more. Master, your safety is the most important thing, why not? Jiang Wang waved his hand to signal not to worry, and a fighting spirit appeared in his eyes. I was afraid that Xiaobai would just take care of him, leaving me no chance to vent my anger. It has swallowed so many corpses. What if there are any of our imperial guards among them? I will kill it myself to avenge my brothers. After that, Jiang Wang closed his eyes, immersed his mind, and continued to sense the sword mark in his sternum. In an instant, I forgot about everything and felt a sense of emptiness all over my body. Zhang Yu calmly pulled Zhang Feng and Li Muir, signaling them to retreat with him. At this moment, Jiang Wang has already entered a state of enlightenment, and you should not be around to influence or disturb him. Jiang Wang's mind was now floating above a canyon, and he could clearly hear the sound of chopping and breaking in his ears. Following the sound, Jiang Wang walked forward until he saw the back of a young man covered in scars and in a dishevel. The young man held a giant sword that was longer than his height, his upper body was wrapped in gauze, and his hands were bleeding, but he still raised the giant sword in his hand without stopping, chopping the mountains in front of him again and again. It turned out that this canyon was carved out by him with his sword. Seeing that the boy hadn't noticed me yet, he might just be too lazy to pay attention to me. Jiang Wang then sat on a broken stone behind him and just looked at him silently. Time passed with each sword strike, until after the last sword strike, a dazzling light appeared from the gap. That is the light of the sea across the mountain. The young man stopped the sword in his hand and silently stared at the sea in front of him, as if he had realized something. Jiang Wang couldn't help but stand up, walked behind the young man and asked softly. Young man, what are you chopping? The boy's shoulders trembled slightly, and he seemed to be a little hesitant. It seemed that after the long chopping, he had forgotten why he started chopping. But it's okay. He hasn't forgotten. A familiar voice came from the boy's mouth. I am chopping at my past self. The boy turned around and looked at Jiang Wang with a smile. Looking at the boy, he looks exactly like me, but his face is younger and more immature than mine. Two ghost images spanning time slowly overlap in memory. Jiang Wang also smiled, walked to the boy's side, and the two of them looked at the sea in front of them together. Is this the second level of Sword Dao, Sword Heart? The boy glanced sideways upwards and rolled his eyes. What do you think? If you think so, then that's it. They both laughed out loud. I understand. I understand. Boom! The mountains collapsed with a loud bang, and Jiang Wang's consciousness rose rapidly. The boy, the canyon, and the mountains in front of him slowly became smaller until they disappeared. Click! Another new crack appeared on Supreme Bone. After so much time, my breastbone still hasn't turned into spare ribs. Jiang Wang regained consciousness and complained speechlessly. The Juxiao sword trembled with excitement, as if a little princess, asking Jiang Wang to use it to strike the first sword of the Sword Heart realm this time. Of course, the 7-killing glazed sword at the center of the eyebrows also slowly heated up, indicating that it thought so too. Jiang Wang smiled lightly, tapped his brow with his index finger, and signaled. Senior, please take care of the younger generation. Next time, I will definitely do it next time. The warmth between his brows disappeared, as if he agreed. The left hand condensed the sword finger and slashed across the blade of the Juxiao sword. A crystal light passed across the sword like a stream of water, and the sword's powerful force was faintly emitted. Looking at the tentacles below, Jiang Wang's breath became firm and his eyes narrowed slightly. It seemed that what was seen was no longer limp tentacles, but a person. This sword is not meant to kill the tentacles, but to cut off the past self and surpass everything that has come before. A sword rises from the sea of my heart, to kill others as well as myself. Second style, Heart and Soul Sword. The light blue sword light escaped from the Juxiao sword and flew away. The speed is not fast, but it can transmigrate the spatial barrier in an instant. The blue-black tentacles seemed to sense the threat and erected scales as a defensive warning. But in Jiang Wang's eyes, he saw his past self, holding a sword and preparing to compete with him. No, this may not be the him of the past, but the inner demon. Boom! Like a drop of water falling into the sea, the light blue sword energy has already penetrated the black tentacles. The figure of the inner demon Jiang Wang slowly dissipated, turning into powder and drifting away in the wind. And these towering black tentacles finally turned into powder, floating down and piling up into a small black hill. Woo! The little white worm let out a strange cry and rushed over like a fly, passing Jiang Wang's stunned figure, then pounced on the black powder and sucked it madly. It has to hurry to grab the food, otherwise a gust of wind will blow them all away. Jiang Wang scratched his head awkwardly. He thought it was too simple. If it was chopped into powder then the head would definitely be cut off, so there would be no need to worry about it splitting. Completely forgetting that the little white worm was still counting on picking up the corpse as food. Chapter 86. Looking at the dozen pages of documents in his hand, Jiang Wang raised his eyebrows slightly. No one expected that the Wushan sect had plundered so much wealth in the past 10 years. Here are several receipts with various fonts recording the income of each industry. All added together, it is enough to feed the entire population of Kyoto for a year. Daxuan has indeed suffered for the sect for a long time. If they let the barbarians suck their blood, it will take who knows when they will be able to pacify the barbarians. Moreover, the coverage of all industries of Wushan sect is extremely complex, ranging from restaurants, casinos, brothels to clinics, blacksmith shop, etc. No wonder the officials appointed by the court were unable to compete with them. Seeing Jiang Wang lost in thought, Han Feiyu hesitated for a moment, then asked. Master Jiang, these are the savings of Wushan sect in the past 10 years. We have already converted some fixed assets into silver in excess, and the rest of the assets will be used to rebuild Zishan County. Jiang Wang waved his hand and nodded with satisfaction. Not bad, pretty much what I expected. I won't go into the details. Remember the oath you made. Han Feiyu let out a long sigh, and his tense nerves finally relaxed. Once again, he bowed respectfully with his fists clasped. Fei Yu, on behalf of Wushan sect and senior sister, would like to thank Lord Jiang for his great kindness. The silent fairy finally relaxed her brows and bowed slightly. After a moment's silence, seeing that the two were still unwilling to leave, Jiang Wang raised his head, which had been looking at the receipt, and asked. What's wrong? If you have nothing else to do, go do your own thing. I will notify you if I need anything in the future. Han Feiyu and Fairy Baiyu looked at each other and took a deep breath. Fairy Baiyu spoke in a deep and clear voice. May I ask Master Jiang what exactly that black bug is? Its aura seems familiar, and seems to be similar to... Jiang Wang interrupted her halfway through, tapping his fingers on the table and speaking casually. Ah, that is the thing that you have been influencing your clan leader with. Something that has been affecting him. Han Feiyu and the other man exclaimed in surprise, seeming very puzzled. This matter was not told to Jiang Wang until Li Muir arrived. This insect was also a legacy of the Julai tribe, but over the long years, it had already lost its mother insect, which means it was extinct. She didn't know why this poisonous insect appeared here, and she didn't know who bred it. If there were still such poisonous insects among the Julai tribe, the Julai tribe's rebellion would not have failed. Han Feiyu stepped forward and bowed on behalf of his senior sister. Master Jiang, could you please tell me in detail, has our sect leader been controlled by this bug all these years? Jiang Wang shrugged and motioned for the two to sit down and listen. In fact, he was a casual person. If the other party was not an enemy, he would not act like a leader. There is a Gu master in our team. She can identify this insect. This insect is a special bloodline left by an ancient mythical beast. After being cultivated by a great Gu master, it gave birth to a parasitic Gu. This kind of poisonous insect is very insidious. The person who is poisoned will not feel any physical discomfort, and it will not harm the host's life. However, it will constantly absorb nutrients from the host and secretly influence the host's judgment. If the Gu worm is of a higher grade than the host, it can even improve the host's cultivation and control the host's actions. The silent fairy's pupils constricted when she heard this, as if she had thought of something. Jiang Wang then continued to explain. However, it is very strange that a parasitic insect can grow to such a large size. I think this insect must have been cultivated through some special method to have the ability to absorb the blood of corpses and eat blood corpses. It can instantly increase its strength by devouring them. This parasitic insect could have stayed hidden in Li Tai's body. Even if he died, it could just wait for the next person to rush to collect Li Tai's body and then change its host. There was no need to expose itself. Perhaps because too many people died in this city, the thick blood energy caused it to lose its mind, resulting in such a great impact. Shaking his head gently, Jiang Wang sighed. So the Gu worm is just a Gu worm. It won't work without a Gu master. Just stay alive and stay alive until you become invincible. Seeing Jiang Wang shaking his head, the silent fairy changed the position of her crossed legs sitting on the chair uneasily, as if she was a little nervous. Master Jiang, are you saying that someone put a curse on my junior brother, so he did something that was abhorrent to both humans and gods, such as slaughtering the city and building a den of ghosts. Jiang Wang chuckled, and his burning eyes swept up and down the silent fairy's white long legs. The two jade legs were intertwined, and the jade feet were half exposed, making people want to touch them. Seeing this, Baihu pulled her legs inward, and her skirt naturally fell down to cover her exposed thighs. Han Feiyu hurried forward to explain. When sect master Li was young, he and my sisters and I were disciples of the same master, the old master of Wushan sect. But we haven't been in touch for many years. We have never had any real power in the sect. Young Master Jiang, please forgive me. Jiang Wang rolled his eyes when he heard this. You think too much. I'm not that petty. Although the parasitic goo can affect and control some emotions and behaviors, after all, its rank is not higher than Li Tai's. It can only give him some hints. The fundamental reason is that Li Tai himself is too evil-minded. He wanted to do this or take a risk, so he was affected by the parasitic goo. But no matter what, he has now been killed without a complete body, which can be regarded as the retribution he deserves. The silent fairy narrowed her beautiful eyes and spoke in a serious tone. In this case, I would like to thank Lord Jiang for giving my junior brother a happy death. I will fully support Lord Jiang in the future. Okay, you're such a bad BCH. You swore an oath to the heaven but you still didn't want to listen to me. Now you've just agreed to do your best. Haha, that's great. How about we drink and discuss together tonight? Ahem. Lu Saiyao, who had been listening on the side, coughed a few times to remind her cousin that her future sister-in-law was still there. Glancing at the angry Li Muir, Jiang Wang chuckled and stopped joking. After several days of continuous fighting, the soldiers finally came to an end. They sat around a campfire outside the city of Wushan sect, sorting out the captured supplies and cleaning their armor and weapons. After tomorrow, they will set out on the journey north again. This is military life. After a life and death battle, before they have time to lick their wounds, a new mission will come. Inside a tavern in Wushan sect, several men in black were sitting around a table, discussing something in low voices. Wang Yunluo, we have basically understood what happened in Zishan. Now that Wushan sect is considered to be ruined, when will we bring the news to His Majesty? Wang Yunluo frowned and thought for a moment, then decided to risk leaving the city tonight and bring the news back to Kyoto. Let's go tonight. You guys go back to the capital by different routes. Be careful of King Jiang's imperial guards and the people of the Jiang family who stop you along the way. With such a rebellious style of behavior, it is not ruled out that Jiang Wang would kill people to silence them and block the news in Yuzhou. Anyway, everyone, be careful. Dedicate your life to the rise of Dixuan. Chapter 87. Early morning at the Imperial Palace in Kyoto. Ji Lingyu was wearing a red phoenix robe, sitting on the throne, with a phoenix crown and a red bridal robe. Her pair of almond-shaped eyes were full of majesty as she looked down at the people below. Yesterday, the night watchman brought the news from Zishan County back to Kyoto. Ji Lingyu was the first to know that King Jiang had privately mobilized the army to attack Wushan sect. According to rumors within the palace, the Empress was so furious that she chopped off a desk made of yellow dragon wood in the imperial study with her bare hands. This is the desk used by the previous emperor. It has accompanied the Empress for many years, but now it has been smashed. Since the Empress has already learned the news from Zishan County, the ministers in the court should have known it at the morning court today, even if it was a little later. But what made Ji Lingyu angry was that no one stood up to impeach Jiang Wang. Could it be that everyone in my court now has the surname Jiang? A moment later, after all the officials had finished arguing about the northern barbarians' extortion and the famine in the north, someone finally stood up. Your subordinate Lin Ping'an has something to report. Ji Lingyu's eyes lit up and she sat up straight. The bulky phoenix robe could not hide her proud figure. What do you want to report, Lord Lin? Please tell me. Lin Ping'an took 2 steps forward and cast a playful glance at the figure in front of the ministers, Yeleng Chan. Now, the right Prime Minister has not been appointed, and most of the officials in the court have sided with Yeleng Chan. It is time to strike a heavy blow to the left Prime Minister's faction and let the officials know that a new force has emerged. Reporting to Your Majesty, the Night Watchman reported yesterday that Jiang Wang, the left Assistant Minister of the Ministry of War, led his troops to secretly attack a sect in Zishan County, Yuzhou. He caused heavy casualties among the sect's disciples, injured tens of thousands of civilians, and caused serious economic and property losses to the Wushan sect. Your Majesty, please take away his military power, summon him back to the capital, and hold him accountable and punish him, coax. As soon as Lin Ping'an said this, the whole court was full of discussions. The only ones who could remain calm were the left prime minister, the ministers, and the generals. Even if this kind of confidential information was leaked through gossip, most people only knew a little about it. They only knew that the empress was furious for some reason yesterday. Now, it is too shocking to know that it was Jiang Wang who secretly sent troops to destroy the sect. Ahem. Yelingchan coughed a few times, and all the officials fell silent instantly. Jilingyu frowned slightly, but looked at Yelingchan calmly. Zhou, do you have something to report as well? Yelingchan's face showed no sadness or joy, his eyes were lowered, he just took a small step forward and bowed. I do have something to report. I actually received a piece of news 3 days ago. Coincidentally, it was also from Zishan County. However, this news made me very sad. As he spoke, Yelingchan raised his head and looked directly at Jilingyu. Your Majesty, Zishan County encountered a once-in-a-century wave of demon beasts. In a city of more than 300,000 people, more than 170,000 people died in one day. The entire city is in a mess. White silk is hung in front of every house, and there are no lights in the windows at night. The Zishan City Defense Force has been reduced by 98%. The defending General Wang Yang died in the battle, and the county magistrate Liu Jianxing is missing and his life or death is unknown. The news from Zishan County was actually transmitted earlier than that from Wushan sect. However, for Jilingyu, such trivial matters and hundreds of thousands of people were just casualties that could be seen every day. In the northern border, there were many cities like this that were massacred by barbarians. Among the mountains of memorials, this matter did not attract her attention. Jilingyu frowned, as if he remembered the news, and then spoke. I have also heard about this matter. The monster attack is unfortunate. I will send people with supplies and my personal letter to Zishan to boost people's morale and rebuild the city. Yelingchan shook his head and began to explain. I have found out that this is not only a natural disaster, but also a man-made disaster. What is a man-made disaster? Taking a deep breath, Yelingchan explained word by word. The Wushan sect used the cub of a high-quality magical beast, the Bauhenia Lion King, from the Magical Beast Mountain range to make a bait specifically for Zishan County to attract a wave of magical beasts to come and massacre the city and build a ghost den. Yelingchan told everyone present the truth about what happened in Zishan County and what happened in Wushan sect. After hearing this, all the ministers were extremely shocked. They could never have imagined that a small Wushan sect would do such a heartless thing. Oh, please don't speak nonsense, left Prime Minister. I also heard this news from the night watchman. However, there is no actual evidence to indicate that this was done by the Wushan sect. Lin Ping'an sneered and interrupted Yelingchan. Oh, Lord Lin may not know this. This morning, the Ministry of Justice sent a Class A secret letter to the current leader of Wushan sect, Fairy Baiyu, who has admitted the mistakes made by Wushan sect. All evidence has been submitted to the Ministry of Justice through officials and reviewed by the Minister of Justice Li Yan. It has been reviewed by Lord Li and me before the morning court session and is correct. Minister Li, why don't you present the evidence? Lin Ping'an looked at Li Yan in shock. He didn't expect that this old man would defect to Zhou so quickly. Li Yan looked straight ahead, not caring about Lin Ping'an's gaze at all, and respectfully handed the evidence to eunuch Liu, who handed it to the Empress for review. The Empress had an expressionless face as she casually put the evidence in eunuch Liu's hand aside, and her mature and majestic voice rang out. I have understood this matter. The culprit of the Zishan incident is Wushan sect. Prime Minister Yat, it is up to you to decide and implement the punishment for Wushan sect. Yelingchan was stunned when he heard this, but without hesitation, he stepped forward to accept the order. As for Jiang Wang, although he made contributions in saving Zishan County, his act of slaughtering the clan is inconsistent with the tenet of Dixuan's benevolence and harmony. He used the imperial army to vent his selfish desires and delayed the battle opportunity in the north. If the faults outweigh the merits, a lighter punishment may be given as a warning. The Empress's decision caused an uproar in the room. The war in the north is urgent, but it is not something that can be solved by 30,000 imperial troops. Moreover, every year when the barbarians demanded benefits, the imperial court never provided any support, and the Prince of Zhenbei had to deal with it himself. How could it be that it has now become a delay in the war? However, it is understandable if you have to blame someone, it is just a matter of comparing whether more people died in the north or in Zishan. It seems that the main purpose is to target the Jiang family. In this case, I will deprive King Jiang of his position as the left assistant minister of the Ministry of War and demote him 3 levels. After the 3 imperial guards arrive in the northern border, the full power will be handed over to King Zhenbei. Jiang Wang needs to reflect on his mistakes in the northern border. After he has made meritorious contributions, he will be reinstated. Resign. Long live the Emperor, long live the Emperor, long live the Emperor. The mind of an emperor is hard to fathom. Everything is a trade-off and a constraint. Ye Lingqian sighed. No wonder he was given the task of handling the Wushan sect. This was to tell him to shut up and not worry about Jiang Wang's deal. There was no way he could stop himself from being moved. Even if he stood up and fought for it, it would only reduce Jiang Wang's punishment. But now that he has the opportunity to deal with the Wushan sect, it is up to him to decide how much fine to report and how much assets to confiscate. When it comes to the question of benefiting others or benefiting oneself, Ye Lingqian chose himself. The first phase of Dixuan needs more resource support to maintain his position. So Ye Lingqian returned to the study, spread out a piece of letter paper, and wrote this. To Jiang Wang, the court is in chaos now, the Empress is personally in charge, and some villains are targeting you. Now I am powerless in the court, and the Empress is determined to punish you, and I am powerless to stop her, and I feel very guilty. Chapter 88. On the official road from Yuzhou to the northern border, Jiang Wang looked at the letter in his hand speechlessly. Master, what did the left prime minister say about the Wushan sect? Li Muir poked her head out of Liu Xiao's carriage and asked curiously. That's right, after leaving Wushan sect, Jiang Wang led his troops to the north again. However, Liu Xiao did not leave. Instead, she strongly requested to go to the northern border with Jiang Wang. She had long wanted to visit the north to see the suffering its people were living in under the oppression of the barbarians. But their small team was still too weak. They didn't have the pass to go north, and they didn't have enough power to protect Liu Xiao's safety, so they had to give up. As for Su Chongqing and Li Muqing, they also wanted to follow Jiang Wang to the north, but were rejected by Jiang Wang on the grounds that it was a military emergency and outsiders were not allowed to follow and leak secrets. So after calming the emotions of the small team, Liu Xiao happily invited Li Muir to get on her carriage and accompany Jiang Wang north. Just a few days later, the two of them became familiar with each other. Oh, don't mention it. I was demoted. Ah! How could that be? The two girls couldn't help but exclaimed when they heard this. Jiang Wang picked up the letter in his hand, handed it to Li Muir, and let them read it themselves. He sighed and explained helplessly. I thought that with the cooperation of Wushan sect, this matter could be characterized as the elimination of evil, but I didn't expect that we would still be targeted. Forget it. I expected to be punished anyway. There's no point in being the left vice minister of the Ministry of War. Just return it to her. Liu Xiao lowered her eyebrows, and there was a hint of self-blame in her watery eyes. Her lips slightly opened, and a gentle voice flowed out. Cousin, it's all my fault. Jiang Wang quickly raised his hand to interrupt. No, don't say that. It was obviously me who insisted on going to attack the Wushan sect for revenge, and you are starting to put the blame on yourself. It's your fault. I've already punished you and wiped your A. As long as you keep your beautiful ideals and damn saintly heart under control, it will be the greatest support for you, my brother. Oh. Liu Xiao murmured in response and felt something warm pinching her hand. When she looked up, it was Li Muir who smiled and winked at her, indicating that she shouldn't take it to heart. Under the golden pupils, the watery eyes were smart, and Li Muir quickly changed the subject. Master, do you think Lord Liu will never return to Zishan? What will happen to his daughter? Jiang Wang was riding a horse, strolling leisurely. Hearing this, he touched his chin and thought about it. He should take his family away. He is actually a dead man now. Dead? Isn't he alive and well? Jiang Wang smiled and shook his head. This was also a misunderstanding, but it backfired and ended up helping Liu Jianxing. He had written his name on the list of dead in order to seek revenge, but I later forgot to remind him to cross it out. So, Zishan County Magistrate Liu was recorded as having died heroically in the battle to defend the city, and his family and children would receive preferential treatment from the court. He is actually quite happy about this, because if he had followed me to fight the Wushan sect, he would have been demoted and punished. He is not as tough as me, so he might lose his job and go to jail. As he spoke, Jiang Wang took out the jade token from his arms and looked at the word Liu on it. Lord Lu is also a man with a story. Now that he has lost his official position, he just stays in Wushan sect and keeps an eye on Han Feiyu and the others to prevent them from making any small moves again. As soon as the words fell, two figures rushed over and landed in front of Jiang Wang. The visitors were Zhang Feng and Zhang Yu. The two men looked exhausted, holding two huge eggs and placing them carefully on the ground. Back? What did Beast King Zijin say? Jiang Wang smiled and nodded at the two of them, then lowered his head and spoke to the egg on the ground. The white eggshell was bulging. Click! After a crisp sound, several cracks appeared on the top of the eggshell. Sob! The little white worm struggled to crawl out of the eggshell. Its small body had a big belly and there was still milky liquid around its mouth. Belch babbling. The little white bug burped and fell backwards accidentally. Li Muir screamed and wanted to catch it, but she was still in the carriage and didn't have time to get out. Thump! The little white worm fell into Jiang Wang's palm and he held it in front of Li Muir. Lying on its side in Jiang Wang's palm, the little white insect whimpered a few times and gestured to Li Muir with its little tail. After a while, Li Muir said. Xiao Bai said that the things have been brought to the Baohenia Lion King, and it is very satisfied. Before Jiang Wang set off, he arranged for Zhang Feng and Zhang Yu to deliver the heads of all the managers of Wushan sect to the Baohenia Lion King, and asked them to bring the little white worm with them to help Jiang Wang ask a question. Ask the Lion King if he has ever seen the parasitic goo, and if any goo master has appeared in the Magic Beast Mountain Range in the past few years. As the king of the Warcraft Mountain Range, the second-grade Baohenia Lion King can monitor a very long range. Unlike humans, Warcraft can use its sense of smell to distinguish the grade of humans from a long distance. The little white bug gestured for a while, and Li Muir nodded and translated it to Jiang Wang. The Baohenia Lion King said that he often smells the smell of this insect, and that some people with relatively good strength have this smell. Jiang Wang frowned. Many people have this smell, which is not good news. Starting from Zhangxing to Wushan sect, who is the person who is using poisonous insects to bring disaster to Dixuan? Muir, has your Zhuai tribe produced any geniuses in recent generations? Jiang Wang couldn't help but look at Li Muir. Li Muir held her chin with her jade-like hand and thought for a while, then finally shook her head. No, when my parents were alive, they told me that I was the most outstanding goo master in Zhuai in the past 100 years, so Xiaobai chose me. Before I was born, the Zhuai tribe's holy goo had been dormant for nearly 100 years. Logically, there wouldn't be anyone with a higher talent than me. Is that so? Jiang Wang scratched his head, feeling a little pain in his brain, sighed, and had to give up for the time being. That night, Jiang Wang sat cross-legged on a big rock, spread out a piece of letter paper, and took a pen to write and draw on it. Dear father, your lovely son sends you greetings. I haven't seen you for a long time. I miss you so much. I have a few things to tell you, father. Jiang Wang bit the pen holder of the Wenchang pen in his hand and tasted a sour taste. Ba. 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 After spitting a few times, without dipping the Wenchang pen in ink and circulating a small amount of righteous energy, Jiang Wang told Jiang Wushan the details of what had happened in the past few days and the discovery of the poisonous insect. If a portion of the people in the imperial court and the sects in the Great Xian territory are controlled and affected, and even the second-grade masters are affected, then the strength of this force may be very strong, even exceeding the threat of the barbarians and the myriad monsters' kingdom. I boldly speculate that a first-grade Great Goo Master may have been born. His intentions are still unknown. Please be careful, father. After finishing the business, Jiang Wang thought about it and brought up a personal matter. If father sees a woman named Dong Yi near the country of myriad monsters, say hello to her for me and tell her that I want to ride in her car. Father, please don't rush to use force against the myriad monsters. I have a feeling that dealing with the myriad monsters may not involve bloodshed. A piece of letter paper was densely covered with golden handwriting. Jiang Wang summoned a nightingale and sent the letter to the south. The silent night was a little chilly. There were a few bonfires lit in the resting barracks, and scattered sentries were also staying up all night with the moon. Jiang Wang gazed at the northern sky with a dim gaze. He had been feeling uneasy these past few days, always feeling that this trip to the northern border would not be that simple. Chapter 89. The cold wind from the north froze the earth, and the snow was falling continuously. With a light step, the snow was above the knees. In the biting cold wind, countless dark shadows were lined up in neat rows, advancing step by step. Looking closer, you can see that everyone in this team has thick hair, muscular body, and tall stature. It turned out to be a barbarian vanguard. The weather in the north became increasingly worse, forcing them to migrate southward. Faced with the pressure of survival, they no longer had a home. Bang! There was a loud thud of someone falling to the ground. The entire team paused, but just looked back at their companions lying in the snow, and continued to move forward without hesitation. A figure who was slightly more robust than the other barbarians walked up to the fallen tribesman, turned him over, and checked his breath. Wang, another one died. A rough voice sounded behind Greer. He did not respond, but closed the eyes of the tribesman on the ground with his hands, lowered his head, and gave him the highest respect. Greer stood up, no longer looking at his tribesmen who were gradually being covered by the snow, and turned around to continue moving forward. Gooden, how long will it take to reach the human's Frostbone Pass? The barbarian named Gooden was wearing leather armor, with more than a dozen human skulls hung side by side on his waist. Judging from their aura, these skulls were all high-quality martial artists. King, at this rate, we can reach Hang Pass in 3 days. A hint of hesitation flashed across Gu Dan's bell-like eyes, but he finally mustered up the courage to ask. King, why don't you set up camp and rest for a while? We have been traveling in the heavy snow for a month, and many of our tribesmen have died of exhaustion. Greer turned his head and glanced at Gooden with his blood-red eyes. With just this one glance, Gu Dan felt as if a wild beast had bitten his throat, and he could no longer utter the words in his throat. Boom! Gooden's tower-like body suddenly fell to his knees. King, please forgive me. Greer looked coldly at Gooden's kneeling figure, with claws like Wolverine growing on his fists, as if he was considering whether to tear apart this tribe member who dared to question him. After a while, Greer put down his fist, turned around and continued walking towards the snow. Gooden, remember that you are a warrior. My orders are absolute. If I tell you to die, then you must die. I have the entire tribe in my eyes. Gu Dan knelt deeper. Facing this supreme barbarian king, he should never question him. Today, the barbarians are united as one and are fighting for destiny with all their might. He actually wanted to question the king's decision just now. It was really ridiculous. After several years of training, the human race has become accustomed to our autumn wind at the end of each year. This king is marching so eagerly just to catch the human race off guard. Hangu Pass has blocked our barbarian tribe for nearly 100 years. Do you know how many of our people have died over the years for this plan? Wang, I'm sorry. Gooden's dull voice sounded, mixed with sincere emotions. Greer glanced at the brother who grew up with him on the ground, and his tone was unquestionable. Gooden, I hope that as an outstanding warrior among the barbarians, you will rush to the front in the next war. Like the wolf of the north, you will keep biting the enemy until you die in battle. I want to smell the wild scent of my ancestors in your blood. Upon hearing this, Gu Dan slowly stood up, and his right hand grew sharp and hard nails, which he fiercely cut into 5 bloody wounds on his chest. The hot blood flowed out and dripped into the cold snow. Your Majesty, Gooden's blood is boiling. Greer nodded in satisfaction, turned around and continued walking. Tell the tribesmen behind you to hold on for 3 more days. I will take them to enjoy the most wonderful slaughter. Early in the morning, in a camp 10 miles away from Hang Pass, scattered soldiers had already woken up and were packing their bags. The dawn has just risen and the darkness has not yet been completely dispelled. The Hang Pass not far away looked like a giant beast in the dark night, with its mouth wide open as if it wanted to devour everything. 7 or 8 caravans, which were staying near the imperial guards, have now woken up and are counting their goods. These are the carriages and horses that arrived outside Hang Pass last night. Hang Pass is a key checkpoint, which is related to the safety of the entire Dachshund behind it, and has its own unique management regulations. The city gates are open only from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. At other times, anyone approaching within 10 miles of Hang Pass will be attacked by the defenders. Even our own army is no exception. Jiang Wang walked out of the warm carriage, his shoes embroidered with gold edges stepping on the snow. We cleaned up the campsite before setting up camp last night, and in just one night, the water accumulated more than an inch deep. The weather in the north is really too bad. We walked along the official road all the way here. When we first entered the north, we could still see some villages and towns here and there. But when we got close to Hang Pass, it was basically deserted. There was not even a footprint on the white snow. But the northern border is still the territory of Dachshund after all. There are more than 200,000 garrisons and hundreds of thousands of civilians here. Some of these people are relatives of the army, some are rangers who come for training, and some are merchants who travel to the north and take risks to engage in trade. Merchants are profit-driven, and even the harshest environment cannot stop these caravans. The unique mineral resources in the north, such as cold iron, ice crystals, cold stones, etc., are extremely valuable in the mainland. These caravans only need to bring food and clothing from the mainland, and they can exchange them for a lot of good things in the city. One trip is enough to make enough profit for half a year. This also indirectly ensured the sufficiency of supplies in the northern border, so that the court did not have to devote too much energy to logistical support. Squeak! The sound of the carriage door opening was heard. A pair of cotton boots stuck out of the carriage and stepped on the snow. Li Muir finally changed her barefoot habit. Her delicate little feet could not withstand the cold weather under the frozen soil of the north. Walking to Jiang Wang's side and helping him brush off the snowflakes that had fallen on his shoulders, Li Muir asked softly when she saw that he was in a daze. "What's wrong?" Jiang Wang came back to his senses. He had just been daydreaming unconsciously. "Nothing, it's just that the north seems a little too cold." As he spoke, he took out a goose-yellow cotton shawl from the carriage with his other hand and helped Li Muir put it on. "Is it cold? Isn't this normal?" "Master, have you been to the north?" Li Muir was a little confused. She pulled her shoulders into her cotton coat and shivered. "I haven't been here, but it's indeed a bit too cold. Even though the barbarians are strong, ordinary fourth graders may not be able to withstand such cold weather. Can the barbarians really bear it? If you can't bear it, why not just freeze to death?" Li Muir had read many books in the Jiang family and had also heard Jiang Wang tell the story of how the dead veterans forced the empress to agree to the northern expedition in the palace. Naturally, she hated the barbarians to the core. Jiang Wang shook his head and sighed. "It would be good if they could freeze to death, but, in such cold weather, I'm afraid those cold-resistant monsters won't be able to survive. If that happens, the barbarians will have no source of food. I'm worried that they will do something desperate." Looking at the majestic sight of Hang Pass in the ice and snow, Jiang Wang felt even more uneasy. Chapter 90. Reading 10,000 books is not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. Compared to the good weather, singing birds, and blooming flowers in the imperial capital, Hang Pass brings a completely different feeling. The gate towards the human race opened, revealing the huge Hang Pass, built with huge blue-black stones. The snow that accumulates all year round freezes in cold weather, forming a thick layer of ice armor, which makes the city walls more solid. Jiang Wang placed his troops outside the city and took the two women into Hang Pass. Stepping on the ground in the city, it feels like stepping on a hard stone wall. You can feel the extremely low temperature under your feet. In order to prevent slipping, the ground in the entire Hang Pass city is engraved with messy stripes. Unlike what Jiang Wang had imagined, after entering the city, it was not as desolate as he had imagined. Instead, it was bustling with people. People were wearing thick cotton-padded clothes, wrapped up like fat men weighing hundreds of pounds, shouting and hawking their wares in the streets and alleys. The most common things on the roadside are small pubs, no, it should be said that there are small wine stalls. It was still only morning, but many customers were already sitting in the stalls drinking and warming themselves. Many of them were carrying weapons, far more than the mercenaries and guards they had seen in Zishan County. Over the years, this cold and fortress has become a military city. Many of the passers-by have a military air, and the weapons in their hands are also standard weapons of the army. The reason for this is actually predictable. After the Empress reduced the army by 800,000, only 200,000 permanent garrisons were left at Hang Pass. How can we defend it with just 200,000 people? And where will those soldiers who have lost their organization go? Years of military career have made most people accustomed to life in the army. Although many people still choose to return to their hometowns, those who are homeless and have nowhere to go spontaneously stay in Hang Pass, relying on collecting nearby minerals and responding to the army's call to resist the barbarians to survive. It can be said that the Empress still has a conscience. The treatment of the Northern Army has always been extremely high, and there are subsidies for temporary conscription every year. This money is more than enough to support another army. Boom boom boom. Jiang Wang brought the two women to the residence of King Zhenbei and knocked on the door. The Zhenbei Palace can be said to be the most rudimentary palace that King Jiang has ever seen. The entire gate is only 3 meters high and is covered with thick snow. It took a long time for the door to open. An old man leaned out and was stunned for a moment when he saw the visitor was dressed in luxurious clothes. Then he reacted and said, "Sir, are you Lord Jiang Wang? Forgive me for my poor eyesight, but I just remembered that the master had told me that Lord Jiang should be here in the next few days. Jiang Wang smiled and nodded, took out the letter that the Duke of Zhenqiu asked him to bring, and handed it to the old man. Thank you for your courtesy, old sir. I came too early. I wonder if Lord Zhenbei Wang is in the mansion. Jiang is here to hand over the military token according to the rules. That's right, according to the Empress's original arrangement, Jiang Wang had to hand over his military power after arriving in the northern border. What's more, he was now demoted and could not hold military power. The old man smiled and motioned Jiang Wang to wait a moment. He went to inform everyone, then hurriedly closed the door and ran back to the courtyard. Jiang Wang looked at the closed door speechlessly. Even if you want us to wait, can't you let us go inside and wait? This is like being turned away. Cousin, this old man seems to be very skilled. Lu Xiao's gentle voice sounded, and it was a little funny to see Jiang Wang's helpless look. Rolling his eyes at her, Jiang Wang saw that Li Muir was trying hard to hold back her laughter, so he helped her tighten the scarf around her neck, leaving only a pair of golden eyes exposed. You tell me? Can't I see it? This old man is only wearing a single layer of clothing in such cold weather. No footsteps can be heard when he opens the door. His cultivation level cannot be lower than that of the 3rd grade. Being able to let a 3rd grade strongman guard the gate can only mean that he is worthy of being the king of Zhenbei. After a while, the door opened again, and it was the old man who opened the door. Now he forced a chrysanthemum-like smile on his face and motioned Jiang Wang and others to follow him. Master Jiang, please come this way. The master is receiving guests in the main hall. Let me take you directly there. Jiang Wang shrugged indifferently. Fortunately, at least he didn't get intimidated or anything. You know, although they are both military generals, strictly speaking, King Zhenbei and Jiang Wuxian are of the same level. It's just that the two do not belong to the same system. It can be understood that one is the army and the other is the air force. Although the two are familiar with each other, their relationship is by no means very good. Instead, there is competition between them. Therefore, if they really want to build a relationship, they have to rely on the face of the old man, the Duke of Zhenqiu. Walking through the silent corridor, Jiang Wang couldn't help but feel emotional. The Zhenbei Palace is really desolate. There is not even a servant in the yard, and there are no valuable boulders or plants for decoration. There are only some weapons used for daily martial arts training placed in the simple yard. He is worthy of being a military general. After bringing the 3 people to the main hall, the old man motioned for them to go in directly, while he went to prepare tea for them. Jiang Wang was not shy and went straight into the hall. There was a fire burning in the main hall, and compared to the cold outside, it was actually a little warm inside the house. There were a few simple pieces of furniture in the room, and no antiques or paintings on the walls. The most eye-catching things were an octagonal table and a fiery red suit of armor placed in the hall. There were 3 people sitting around the octagonal table, 2 men and 1 woman. The person sitting in the main seat at the head was a middle-aged man. He looked a little thin, but his solid muscles could be vaguely seen under his clothes. He had a resolute face, thick eyebrows, and bright eyes, giving off a sense of majesty without even being angry. The other man was an old man with white hair and a long goatee. He was dressed in a blue Confucian robe and had elegant manners. He looked like a highly respected scholar. The last person was a young and beautiful woman, wearing a fiery red light armor. Even when she was eating breakfast, she never took off the sword at her waist. She had a high ponytail that hung down to her waist. There was a heroic look between her brows, giving her a feeling of Mulan. Seeing Jiang Wang and the other 2 enter the room, the 3 people in the room also looked them up and down. Especially the woman in red, her eyes were very aggressive, she stared at Jiang Wang as if she wanted to see through him. But when she looked at the 2 women beside Jiang Wang, she suddenly snorted coldly, then withdrew her gaze with disdain and lowered her head to drink the porridge in the bowl. Junior Jiang Wang, hello to King Zhenbei. Jiang Wang took the initiative to perform the junior salute. In fact, he called himself a junior with some selfish motives. Now that his official position has been demoted, he has to be humble when meeting someone as a subordinate, but if he were to pay his respects as a junior, after all, he has the relationship with the Duke of Zhenqiu, so the King of Zhenbei will probably not make things difficult for him. When you are under someone's roof, you have to bow your head. Whether you will live a good life in the future depends on this move of King Zhenbei. A deep and majestic voice sounded, with a kind and warm tone, and the words that King Zhenbei opened his mouth actually gave King Jiang enough face. Mr. Jiang, there is no need to be polite. I am not a pedantic person. Welcome to Hang Pass. Jiang Wang was a little surprised when he heard this. The title of Great Confucian used by King Zhenbei has a lot of meaning. We have seen in Kyoto that the titles of Confucian and Taoist scholars, great scholars, and saints are all honorific titles for recognizing knowledge and educating the people. If he were not in Kyoto, it would not be an exaggeration for young students to call him Zhang Deru, Zhang Semi-Saint, or Dean Zhang. But at this cold bone pass, Jiang Wang could never have imagined that King Zhenbei would have such great affirmation of his Confucian and Taoist knowledge. Seeing that Jiang Wang was a little confused, the old man with white beard said with a smile. President Jiang, there is no need to be surprised. Han Guguan has received great favors from President Jiang, and Meng has also been friends with President Jiang for a long time. Clam. Jiang Wang was a little confused. Chapter 91. Inside Hang Pass, in an ordinary mansion. Jiang Wang and the other two were invited to sit around the octagonal table and enjoy a simple breakfast. Jiang Wang picked up a piece of food made from some kind of cereal that looked like a fried dough stick but was frozen hard, put it in his mouth and took a bite. In other words, my poem about the Red Dust War has become widely circulated in the north. Jiang Wang frowned slightly as he chewed the food that tasted extremely bad. This food made from pressed grains had no taste and was very prickly to the mouth. Meng Dara smiled and tasted the food in his mouth calmly, as if he was already used to it. Of course, every student in my Fuguang Academy has read Dean Jiang's poems. Most of them can already use the poems to cause small-scale anomalies to assist in combat. After a brief introduction, Jiang Wang already knew the identities of these three people. The middle-aged man was naturally the king of Zhenbei, and the woman in red light armor was the king of Zhenbei's eldest daughter, Zhao Yingran. This woman was as capable as any man. She was 7 or 8 years older than Jiang Wang, but she was already a third-grade martial artist. If such an accomplishment were to be found in Kyoto, he would surely be the best among his peers and be admired by thousands of people. The old man who took his life was named Meng Ke, and he was the dean of Fuguang Academy, and now he was also a third-grade scholar. Fuguang Academy is very special. It is a Confucian and Taoist academy built in Hang Pass. Different from the students in Kyoto who study for the purpose of imperial examinations, official positions, and ranks, the students of Fuguang Academy all study for the purpose of fighting. In the words of Mencius, scholars like us should use our pens as swords to kill the barbarians and protect the prosperity of the human race. Otherwise, it would be better to join the army and do something more satisfying. Jiang Wang was a little shocked when he heard this. He came from Kyoto, so he naturally knew the Confucian and Taoist atmosphere of Dixuan. Poetry and songs were destined to be low grade, and only those who could bring official positions and govern the country were upper class. And the great Confucian Meng Ke took resisting barbarians as the purpose of running a school and praised the poetry of a stranger, which was truly virtuous. Jiang Wang then put down the food in his hand and bowed. I feel honored that your poems can help the students in the north. President Jiang is too polite. We should thank President Jiang for writing the Red Dust War poem for Deshen and saving countless lives. Meng Dara smiled very kindly, and his eyes when he looked at Jiang Wang were full of admiration for the younger generation. The atmosphere of breakfast was more harmonious than Jiang Wang had expected, especially the king of Zhenbei, who was not as difficult to get along with as rumored. Although it was mainly Jiang Wang and Meng Ke who were communicating, the king of the northern border listened respectfully. He did not use his official position to pressure Jiang Wang or give him a show of power. Instead, he would occasionally interrupt and briefly introduce the situation of Hang Pass to Jiang Wang. Almost the same as Jiang Wang expected, there are about 200,000 elite troops stationed in Hang Pass now. These 200,000 people are mostly veterans left behind by Jiang Wuxian. Although there have been a lot of fresh blood in the past few years, most of them have experienced real fighting with the barbarians. They are real veterans of hundreds of battles, and they are the main force of Hang Pass defense. The remaining population living in Hang Pass for a long time is about 800,000. Half of them can be directly drafted into the army without training and can be directly incorporated into the team to defend the city. Most of these people are former veterans and people with lofty ideals. They often appear in dangerous mining areas. Many of them have participated in the joint defense of Hang Pass and fought in wars. The rest may be around 100,000 mercenaries, guards, or disciples from the sects who come to travel. They also have a certain combat power, but the management is disorganized, they fight on their own, and they are highly mobile, so they cannot serve as a standing combat force. Such a checkpoint city with a population of 1 million can indeed be regarded as a place where every citizen is a soldier. No wonder it can face the attack of the barbarians. After breakfast, everyone had already gotten to know each other. King Zhenbei looked at the time and stood up, his deep and magnetic voice rang out. Jiang Wang, your military power has now been taken back by His Majesty. I will recruit the imperial guards you brought with you. Do you have any questions? Jiang Wang stood up upon hearing this and answered in a serious tone. Reporting to the Commander-in-Chief, I understand the rules of the army. There can only be one leader in a march or a battle. I only need to follow orders. The 3 imperial guards will be handed over to the Commander-in-Chief for assignment. Now that you are under someone's roof, if they treat you well, you have to accept it. If you continue to hold on to the military power and say that only you can lead the people I brought with you and that the imperial guards only obey the orders of the Jiang family, you are courting death. Didn't you see that King Zhenbei never took off his armor when he stood up? Jiang Wang was afraid that if he hesitated for a while, King Zhenbei would have to stretch his muscles with him. This guy is a well-known second-grade martial artist in Dixuan. The threat he posed to Jiang Wang just by standing up was no less than that of the Bauhenia Lion King. Now that you are also a third-grade martial artist, it is not appropriate for you to be a soldier. How about this, Ying Ran? Zhao Yingran, dressed in red and armor, stood up and saluted upon hearing this. I will be here in the end. When Zhao Yingran stood up, Jiang Wang discovered that this woman was over 1.7 meters tall, not much shorter than Jiang Wang when she stood up. Her black ponytail showed off her tall figure, and her chest was slightly raised, which seemed to indicate that she was well developed. I will incorporate the 3 imperial guards into your army, and appoint Jiang Wang as your adjutant. I hope you can cooperate with each other and don't let me down. King Zhenbei said so, and there seemed to be some different meaning in his deep eyes. Zhao Yingran lowered her head and responded, looking at Jiang Wang beside her with an aggressive look. Adjutant Jiang, please follow me to the army to integrate the troops later. Jiang Wang was also confused by Zhao Yingran's inexplicable hostility. He smiled awkwardly and nodded repeatedly. The experience of a veteran in the world of women tells him that when faced with a woman's hostility, one should never take risks. Ha ha ha, Dean Zhang looks like he needs some time to adapt to life in Hang Pass. When you have time, remember to come to my Fuguang Academy. Our students have many questions they want to discuss with you. Jiang Wang agreed repeatedly. After a brief contact, he was also very interested in Meng Kei's Fuguang Academy. He wondered what kind of style these Confucian scholars who mainly focused on fighting had. Seeing that everything had been arranged, King Zhenbei was about to leave for an inspection of the army when Liu Saiyao suddenly spoke up. Lord Zhenbei Wang, I have done some research on formations and would like to contribute to Hang Pass. I wonder what I can do for you. Jiang Wang then remembered that this cheap cousin was eager to come with him because she must want to do something for Hang Pass to make up for the mistakes she made in Zishan. King Zhenbei was straightforward at the time. King Zhang did not hide Liu Saiyao's true identity and told her when introducing her. After all, if a princess of the previous emperor were in such a dangerous city and something happened to her, it would be a blow to the reputation of the court. Miss Liu, you can follow me to the formation. I believe Great Master Lu would be willing to communicate with you. After settling Jiang Wang and Li Mura's residence, Zhao Yingran brought Jiang Wang to the camp under her jurisdiction. Chapter 92. Walking on the street with light snowflakes floating, passing through stone houses, Jiang Wang followed Zhao Yingran's footsteps and came to the direction of the Hang Pass. After leaving the residential area, the scenery in front of us suddenly became clear. A large training ground came into view. Tens of thousands of soldiers were lined up in neat military formations and were conducting morning exercises. A towering city wall can be vaguely seen in the distance. Many traces of war can be seen on the wall. A blue-black gate stands under the wall. There is a huge bulge on the gate, as if an unparalleled strong man once bombarded the gate head-on. But this wall, this gate, has been indestructible since ancient times, and the barbarians have never truly set foot in the territory of Dixuan. Jiang Wang quickened his pace and came to Zhao Yingran's side, asking with a smile that he thought was sunny. General Zhao, how many people are there in our army? Do they have any names? Zhao Yingran looked straight ahead, without stopping her steps, and spoke to herself. My army is called Vermilion Bird, taken from the names of the 4 symbols. Our army specializes in attacking and killing enemies, and has made countless military achievements under the command of the Marshal. The total number of troops in the army is 50,000. With the addition of the 3 new imperial guards and logistics personnel, the number may soon increase to 100,000. After saying that, she suddenly stopped, and Jiang Wang almost bumped into her perky butt. Master Jiang, once you enter my military camp, you must follow my rules. If you disobey my orders, I will punish you according to military law. Jiang Wang smiled awkwardly, his eyes unconsciously glancing at the sturdy chest of the woman in front of him. Even though they were covered in light armor, one could see that 2 fruits were about to emerge. She is truly a monster on earth. With her personality, she must have been wearing a bra. Yet, her breasts are still this big. Cough cough. Jiang Wang looked away inconspicuously and coughed dryly. Of course I understand this. I grew up in a military camp and I know all the rules to follow. Have I ever offended the general? Zhao Yunguan was a little aggressive from the moment she met Jiang Wang. It seemed like she was always on guard against Jiang Wang, which made people wonder if they had ever had an enemy. Zhao Yunguan sneered, turned around and continued to lead the way, and a cold voice came. Master Jiang, you are really a forgetful person. Should I remind you that you must have played with many girls in Kyoto? Well, Jiang Wang was a little panicked. The original body was not a good person. Could it be that this girl, who Zhao Yunguan had played with, had also not escaped the clutches of Jiang Wang before? This shouldn't be the case. This woman is now at the 3rd grade. Even though she is a few years older than Jiang Wang, if she hadn't had the opportunity to transmigrate, her original body would definitely not be able to match Zhao Yunguan's cultivation level. How could she possibly use force on her? Could it be that he was drugged? Jiang Wang felt his scalp tingling. No. No way, wouldn't the days ahead be terrible? No, I have to die knowingly. Hehe, did I offend General Zhao in any way? Please tell me clearly. I was young and ignorant. If I really offended you, I will apologize to you. Jiang Wang showed a flattering smile, rubbed his hands nervously. Zhao Yunguan chuckled, glanced sideways, her eyes full of meaning, and spoke in a faint voice. Young Master Jiang, you must have been to Mantingfang quite a lot in the past few years. It's really glorious. You have occupied all the top beauties in Mantingfang. Have you ever thought that others can't have them? Mantingfang? Jiang Wang was stunned. Why did she bring this up? Did he offend her when he visited the brothel? That shouldn't be the case. Isn't she a woman? Suddenly, Jiang Wang suddenly remembered an embarrassing thing. He once had a buddy in Kyoto, and his brothers called him Zhao Laosi. Because Jiang Xing could not play with Jiang Wang since he was a child, Jiang Wang, as a playboy, naturally attracted a group of powerful children to play together. Among this group of people, Jiang Wang was the leader. They swaggered around the city and never paid when visiting brothels. They were affectionately called the 4 evil youngsters of Kyoto by the people of Kyoto. Among them was Zhao Laosi. Zhao Laosi is a very handsome man. He likes to wear a pink robe and hold a folding fan. Whenever he sees a beautiful woman, he calls her sister non-stop. He is a real sissy. Jiang Wang now thinks that Zhao Laosi is a Daxuan version of Jia Beiyu, who has a wealthy family and also likes beautiful women. However, he does not like to play with women like Jiang Wang and others. Instead, he prefers to chat and laugh with beautiful women. As for his good friends who don't like to eat meat, he always eats vegetarian food and spends a lot of money when paying the bill, making the price of vegetarian dishes higher than that of meat, and driving up the cost of listening to music in brothels. So, on a dark and windy night, Jiang Wang, together with 2 other evil young men, got Zhao Laosi drunk and threw him into the boudoir of a new and unmarried courtesan in Mantingfang. He left a large sum of money to the courtesan and asked her to serve his good brother well tonight. However, after one night, when the sun was high in the sky the next day, Jiang Wang found that his good brother had not come to play with him, so he went to Mantingfang to look for Zhao Laosi, but all that was left was a white chest wrap and the courtesan with tears on her face. My good brother, he might be a woman. From that day on, the 4 evil young men in the capital were disbanded. Jiang Wang was so angry that he even mobilized the Black Scale Army to search for Zhao Laosi in Kyoto, but he couldn't find him. He never thought that his good friend, with whom he used to be so close to each other, drink and visit brothels together, and even sleep together, was actually a woman. Damn it, when he was drunk once, Jiang Wang swore that if he were a woman, he would definitely marry Zhao Laosi, be his best friend for life, cover for his brother when he went out to visit brothels, and let him marry a concubine to help him manage the entire household. Now you are really a woman, you run away? You can't afford to play, right? Now I said I would visit Manting Fang without you, no wonder the tone of your voice sounded familiar, it turns out it's you. So Jiang Wang widened his eyes, pointed at Zhao Yingran and yelled. You are Zhao Laozi, return my feelings to me. Bang! Zhao Yingran turned around and kicked towards Jiang Wang's crotch. Fortunately, Jiang Wang reacted quickly and clamped his legs together to hold Zhao Yingran's white feet. Zhao Yingran was angry and cursed in a low voice. How dare you say that you left me alone with the courtesan and let that little girl pull off my clothes and see my female body? From then on, I became famous in the Kyoto courtesan circle. All the brothels and entertainment places refused to welcome me, saying that I was here to cause trouble. Damn it, otherwise I would not have come north to find my father. Zhao Yingran pulled her foot that was clamped by Jiang Wang, but it didn't move at all. The bad guy clamped it very hard, which made her ankle hurt a little. Let me go! Zhao Yingran shouted angrily in a delicate voice. The actions of the two had attracted the attention of some soldiers in the barracks. I won't let go, and you still have the nerve to criticize me? We've been buddies for so many years, and you didn't even tell me that you were a woman. You took advantage of me so much during those years when we were arm in arm. Zhao Yingran laughed angrily, gritted her teeth and spoke in a low voice. How dare you say I took advantage of you? I didn't even say you were dishonest. You slapped my butt so many times and you didn't even notice it. Don't you know that men's shoulders can't be that slender? Also, I'm not interested in men. I like those pretty girls in brothels. Chapter 93. A strange scene appeared in front of the Vermilion Bird Camp in Hang Pass. The beautiful and heroic General Zhao Yingran had her legs clamped by a frivolous man she had never seen before, and the two of them posed in a shameful posture in public. The soldiers who were secretly in love with Zhao Yingran were already angry. They walked out of the barracks in groups of 3 or 4 to ask for an explanation for the general. The crowd grew larger and larger, gathering into thousands of people like a snowball, with angry and murderous eyes, making Jiang Wang a little overwhelmed. Jiang Wang also lowered his voice and complained to Zhao Yingran quietly. Then tell me, you are a woman, but you spent so much money to go to a brothel with us, and you only looked but didn't eat. Do you know how much money you wasted? Zhao Yingran rolled her rosy red eyes, which looked very pretty. You invited me on your own initiative. I never asked you to pay, did I? Compared to this, you caused me to be unable to have fun in the Kyoto entertainment circle. You should compensate me more. Seeing that more and more people were gathering around, Jiang Wang pushed his legs apart and let go of Zhao Yingran's feet. Because it was released so suddenly, Zhao Yingran was completely caught off guard, and her feet slipped, and she fell towards Jiang Wang. Boom! Jiang Wang was about to catch Zhao Yingran who fell, but he didn't expect that a third-grade martial artist could lose his balance so easily. Zhao Yingran threw an uppercut, hitting Jiang Wang's defenseless abdomen with a dull sound. Cough cough cough. Jiang Wang bent down like a boiled shrimp. The punch was quite strong, enough to hurt him but not enough to injure him. What are you looking at? Notify everyone to assemble in the training grounds. I'd like to introduce you to the new deputy commander. Zhao Yingran turned around and shouted to the surrounding soldiers with a dignified look on her face. A group of big and strong men faced the angry shouting of a little girl, but no one dared to refute her. He glared at Jiang Wang with fiery eyes, then walked dejectedly into the training ground and formed a square formation. Zhao Yingran glanced at Jiang Wang who was lying on the ground and said with disdain. What's wrong, buddy? Did someone cook you? Overindulge yourself? One punch is enough. Seeing that he had not fooled Zhao Yingran, Jiang Wang stood up suddenly with a serious expression. Old Zhao, I want to ask you something, and you must answer it seriously. Zhao Yingran was a little surprised when she saw Jiang Wang's serious expression, thinking it was something important. You said, I can tell you anything that is not confidential. Jiang Wang said seriously. I remember that you were the one who took me to the bathroom when I was drunk. You didn't peek at my second brother at that time, did you? Zhao Yingran's face turned red, and she raised her foot slightly and wanted to kick the gangster to death. But on second thought, he retracted his leg which was raised in the air and answered with a sneer. Oh, you mean that? I've seen it before. It's like a small shrimp, not interesting. I didn't expect your thing to be so detailed. Zhao Laozi, I'm going to fight you. Jiang Wang roared, I have lived a clean life. Isn't it normal to shrink when drunk? I was actually laughed at. No, my innocence has been seen. After playing around, Jiang Wang followed Zhao Yunguan and stood on the high platform in front of the training ground. The training ground below the stage was crowded with people, including the 3 newly incorporated imperial guards. These were all warriors who had gone through hundreds of battles and were tempered with hardships. The murderous aura condensed in them made the people standing on the stage unconsciously bear a heavy pressure. Perhaps you cannot imagine that when nearly 100,000 people stand in front of you, with all their attention on you, you will feel a sense of oppression that is as solid as a substance. This is called momentum, also called stage skills. Why did we always talk about stage experience, speech experience, and performance in competitions in previous lives? It is because when you are the center of attention, this kind of gaze will really bring physical oppression. And because of Jiang Wang's actions just now, these eyes were filled with scrutiny and murderous intent. Well, it feels even worse. Bang Zhao Yunguan took out a guandao that was taller than a person and stabbed it heavily on the ground. The guandao was about 2 meters long, pitch black with a chilling glow, thick and rough, with a dark red phoenix totem carved on it. When it was poked into the ground, it caused the ground to crack and shatter. It must have weighed several hundred kilograms. Such a heavy weapon looked extremely out of place in the hands of Zhao Yunguan, who was so petite. Soldiers, tell our Lieutenant General what the welcoming ceremony of the Vermilion Bird Army is. Zhao Yunguan spoke seriously with a cold tone in her voice. The soldiers in the audience showed excitement in their eyes and shouted in unison. Anyone who becomes a general of the Vermilion Bird Army must be trained by thousands of men. A roar like a tsunami came, blowing Jiang Wang's black hair. Jiang Wang looked puzzled and glanced at Zhao Yunguan, as if asking a question. Zhao Yunguan looked calm and explained to Jiang Wang without any expression. The rules passed down by the Vermilion Bird Army are that anyone who wants to be the leader of the Vermilion Bird Army must not defend or hide, and must withstand the attacks of 1,000 people. Only those who can survive can command the entire Vermilion Bird Army. Don't look at me like that. I went through the same thing back then. Jiang Wang stared at Zhao Yunguan as if he was teasing her, but Zhao Yunguan just spread her hands, indicating that this was the rule. What about the candidate? Spontaneous. Jiang Wang sighed and accepted his fate helplessly. Of course it's the strongest 1,000 people. Don't worry, I'm not included in this. After all, I'm your leader. Zhao Yunguan smiled slyly and raised her willow-shaped eyebrows. Well, since that's the rule, there's nothing we can do about it. In fact, although there is such a rule, under normal circumstances, the deputy generals of an army are all 3rd grade martial artists, and for an army the size of Vermilion Bird, the captains are 4th grade. Even if it is defenseless, the attacks of low-grade martial artists will hardly penetrate the bodies of high-grade defenses. All you need to be careful about are the killer moves of those 4th grade captains. After all, they are all our own people, and we won't really kill them. They will just suffer minor injuries. In this case, Jiang Wang felt quite relaxed, so he stood on the stage carefree, looking at the people on the training ground provocatively. Come on, I'll stand right here, who'll go first? Seeing Jiang Wang so confident, the army suddenly fell silent. After a while, a burly man came up and spoke in a muffled voice. Humph, a kid who hasn't even fully grown his hair yet, even if he starts practicing since his mother's womb, how strong can he be? I'll go first. The man who came was a 4th grade captain. With such strength, he could be a small general in an ordinary local army, but in the Vermilion Bird Army at the border, he could only be a captain. It's Captain Wang. Captain Wang's fiery fist is of very high level. Even General Zhao has praised him. Haha, this pretty boy is in trouble. Our Vermilion Bird Army is not like other bird troops. The lieutenant general who came before couldn't even withstand the fists of the captains. Captain Wang, kill him for daring to disrespect General Zhao. Yes, beat him to death. Zhao Yunguan heard some frivolous words from her subordinates and was a little worried about humiliating Jiang Wang, so she snorted coldly. Are you itching for trouble? Just watch it honestly when I tell you to. If you keep nagging me, get out of here and go back to training. It has to be said that Zhao Yunguan's general power was so great that with just one curse, no one in the audience dared to insult Jiang Wang anymore. However, a feeling of worry surged into Zhao Yunguan's heart. The soldiers were right. The previous 3rd grade was disliked by the soldiers because he was a disciple of a sect. Also, because he practiced true qi and body tempering incompletely, he was indeed seriously injured by the poisonous punches of several captains. I don't know if Jiang Wang's cultivation has fallen behind over the years. Although I heard that he has reached the 3rd grade, I wonder if he has used precious elixirs. If this were true, with his subordinates so angry, he might really not be able to withstand the punches. Zhao Yingguan rubbed the guandao in her hand unconsciously with her fingers, feeling that something had gone too far. As for Jiang Wang, he pouted his cheek. It seems like someone is forcing me to show off. Chapter 94. In the training ground, Jiang Wang rubbed his nose and stood there casually. He looked up and down at the rugged man in front of him and said nonchalantly. Go ahead, don't look at me, there are 999 people behind me waiting to beat me up. Captain Wang glanced at Zhao Yingguan, and seeing that she didn't stop him, a cruel smile appeared on his lips. Little white face, you are not our leader yet, so don't blame me for being too ruthless. Jiang Wang looked a little unhappy. Who are you calling a pretty boy? I have a healthy yellow skin. If you don't teach him a lesson, will he know that my last name is Jiang? Stop talking nonsense and get started. Seeing Jiang Wang's unhappy expression, Captain Wang was delighted just to irritate him. Then, Captain Wang lowered his waist and raised his hips, and the mysterious energy in his body surged. A fiery red fluorescence lit up on his right fist, as if a raging fire was burning. The burning sensation made the soldiers watching frown. Such a fierce punch would not kill the deputy general directly. Take my punch! Captain Wang roared, exerted force on his feet, and flew out like a cannonball. He put all his strength into punching out fiercely without even considering retracting the attack. The flaming fist hit Jiang Wang's chest hard, making a loud bang. Captain Wang's face lit up with joy, this punch was his best ever. Even if you are a 3rd-grade martial artist, if you are not on guard, you will have to take 3 steps back after being hit by my punch. However, things did not develop as smoothly as Captain Wang had expected. It was as if an electric car had hit a dump truck parked on the side of the road. Captain Wang's fist made a hair-raising cracking sound when it hit Jiang Wang's chest. Ah, my hand! Captain Wang covered his fist in pain, and his legs almost gave out and he fell to the ground. The iron fist that was full of power and emitting hot flames just now was now bent in a strange arc, with the thumb turned inward and the entire hand bent inward like a chicken claw. Did you use your profound energy to protect your body? Captain Wang raised his head and glared at Jiang Wang. Even if he was 3rd grade, it was impossible for him to take his punch without any injury, and he even broke his palm. Jiang Wang shook his head helplessly and reached out to pat the wrinkles on his clothes on his chest. Captain Wang, have you never seen a genius? I am a 3-year-old body tempering master. I use various herbs to nourish my physique day after day. I am just a low-level martial artist's fist. Even if I don't defend myself, you can't break my defense. You. Captain Wang glared at him and opened his mouth but could not utter any words in rebuttal. Humph, you're just a rich 2nd generation who relies on family resources. Let's see how many people you can support. With a cold snort, Captain Wang dragged his broken arm and walked back to the team in shame. Jiang Wang certainly disdained the harsh words from such a small character. Some people are always short-sighted. They cannot see the broader sky and have not walked a longer road. In their eyes, even if you are better than me, you are only slightly better. They have no idea that some people's talents and strengths have already exceeded their cognition. This is just like when Jiang Wang faced those top professionals from Peking University and Tsinghua University in his previous life. You will find that some things are really destined. Maybe in high school, you would feel pressured by those students who ranked first in the class, but you would not despair, because their strength seemed to be just that their scores were slightly higher than yours. If you studied hard from childhood, you would not necessarily be worse than them. However, when Jiang Wang actually faced those top scholars who were ranked first or second in their majors in Peking University, Tsinghua University, and even in famous foreign universities, he discovered that there is such a thing as IQ suppression. Some people say that genius is made up of 99% hard work and 1% talent, and use this to inspire stupid people, thinking that as long as they work hard, they are no worse than geniuses. However, the reality is that this 1% of talent has already crushed 99.99% of people, and those who lack this talent will never catch up with the real geniuses. This is exactly the case with Jiang Wang today, and Captain Wang is just like an ordinary person in his previous life. After working hard for half a lifetime, he thought that his achievements were pretty good. But in fact, in Jiang Wang's eyes, they were just average. So average that he didn't even need to use his Xian Qi. The physical bonus brought by Supreme Bone was enough to ignore his punches. So. Jiang Wang raised his head and spoke lightly. Who's next? Faced with Jiang Wang's casual words, the soldiers on the training ground actually retreated a little. Everyone looked at each other, and no one dared to go up and challenge. Captain Wang's strength is not the strongest among them, but he is also one of the best masters. Now he used all his strength to attack, but not only did he fail to hurt Jiang Wang, but he also broke his own hand bones. Who would dare to fight him? Seeing her subordinates cowering, Zhao Yunguan became furious and shouted in a stern voice. You guys are always so arrogant and think you are members of the Vermilion Bird Army. You want to lift your nose to the sky. Why are you peeing now? They are all FG idiots. How are you any worse than him? There are 1,000 of them against one, and you are not allowed to fight back. What are you still hesitating about? Hearing Zhao Yunguan's rebuke, the soldiers couldn't help but feel hot on their faces. It was really embarrassing that they were so scared. At this time, a man with gloomy eyes and a very thin figure walked out of the crowd. He was wearing pure silver armor with carved gold patterns and holding a spear, which made him stand out in the crowd. General, we think we can't defeat the Deputy General alone. We give in. Jiang Wang raised his eyebrows when he said this. This kid had something else in his words. He said he was convinced, but there was still fighting spirit in his eyes. Zhao Yunguan's expression did relax, but she still criticized. You guys don't even want to fight, so you just give in like that. This is how I usually teach you. I think you want to practice more. The thin man quickly interrupted to explain. General, although we have obeyed, if you want us to obey the Deputy General's orders willingly, we have another unwelcome request. A general should fight 1 against 1,000. If we, 1,000 men, form an army formation and attack together, the Deputy General can stop us with all his strength. If he can defeat us, the Vermilion Bird Army will recognize the Deputy General and will never complain again. After the boy said this, Jiang Wang understood. Does this mean you're still not convinced? Do you think I'm just a fool who only knows body tempering and that I'm not as good as them in actual combat of Xianqi? If these 1,000 people are all masters in the army, they will definitely have the strength of a general 3rd grade when they form a military formation. They want to practice with me. Zhao Yunguan was about to speak out to stop him. Now that Jiang Wang had passed the trial of the Vermilion Bird Army, there was no need to create trouble. What was the point of fighting another battle? Su Shu, who allowed you to decide for the Vermilion Bird Army? Jiang Wang suddenly stretched out his hand and interrupted Zhao Yunguan. Zhao Yunguan was a little angry. These people dared to interrupt her when she was speaking. She really wanted to kill them. Seeing the anger in her eyes, Jiang Wang chuckled. General Zhao, please don't stop me. I also want to practice with my brothers. As he spoke, Jiang Wang put his hands behind his back, smiled and walked down the martial arts stage, without even drawing the Juxiao sword from his waist. Aren't you all dissatisfied in your heart? Come on, all of you, come together and see if you can force me to draw my sword. Su Shu clenched the silver spear in his hand, his eyes full of fighting spirit. Chapter 95. The power of the army of 1,000 people was all concentrated on Su Shu. He was wearing shining silver armor and the steel spear in his hand was sharp and intimidating. Jiang Wang looked at Su Shu with great interest. This man had made some achievements in the great Dao of the spear, and it would not be long before he could attain the 3rd grade. Such a battle would allow him to experience the power of the 3rd grade in advance, and perhaps it would speed up his promotion. So Jiang Wang smiled and tried to irritate Su Shu. Don't just pretend, come on, show me what you can do. Su Shu's face darkened. He exerted force with his feet, crushed the bricks on the ground in an instant, and climbed up. Kill! 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 The military formation coordinated with Su Shu's attack, mobilized the fierce mysterious energy, and formed an offensive formation. This formation could increase the intensity of Su Shu's attack. A flash of cold light comes first, and then the gun shoots out like a dragon. Su Shu let out a long whistle, pulled the silver spear back and forth, unexpectedly turning it into 2, creating 2 spear shadows. He then pulled it back and stabbed it forward repeatedly, and hundreds of spear shadows emerged, with bits of cold light sprinkling towards Jiang Wang like icy rain. It's good that you came. Jiang Wang exclaimed in praise. To be honest, regardless of how powerful this move is, it is really beautiful. The sprinkling icy rain is very suitable for singing a song. He did not draw out the Juxiao sword in his hand, but simply held the scabbard and waved his hand repeatedly at a speed so fast that an afterimage appeared. It seemed like a light blow, but each sword strike hit the tip of Su Shu's gun just right, turning his fierce moves into nothingness. While fending off Su Shu's attack, Jiang Wang began to explain. Your move may seem grand and powerful, with hundreds of gun shadows, but in fact, they are all illusions. Jiang Wang's breathless words made Su Shu feel humiliated. He gritted his teeth and increased the speed of his hands. Look, no matter how fast you stab, it's just a phantom transformed by a spear. As long as it's a phantom, there is a sequence. I don't even need to draw my sword. I can see which one stabs me first, so I can deal with it easily. As he spoke, Jiang Wang exerted force in his hand and easily blocked Su Shu's spear. Su Shu only felt a huge force coming from his hand, which almost caused the steel gun to slip out of his hand. His feet unconsciously clanged back a few steps, and the hand holding the steel gun trembled unconsciously. Looking closely, he saw that the tip of the gun was shaking constantly, as if it was vibrating after being hit. Su Shu gripped the gun tightly and shook it hard. The two forces counteracted each other, and the shaking seemed to stop. What a fast sword! Su Shu was no mediocre person, so he naturally knew how this vibration was caused. The fact that this phenomenon could only occur meant that the opponent was much stronger than himself. At the moment when he was bounced off, he quickly hit the tip of the gun multiple times. The combined effects of these attacks caused this 1,000-year-old cold iron steel gun to shake like this. Thinking of this, Su Shu showed a trace of respect and saluted with his fists clasped. Excuse me, the Deputy General is indeed extremely talented and capable. Jiang Wang shook his head and touched the Juxiao sword in his hand. No, you still don't accept. Just as Jiang Wang said, Su Shu today, no, the entire Vermilion Bird Army, has not yet realized the gap between them and Jiang Wang. They may be used to the fact that strength is respected and military orders are as heavy as mountains in the military camp. However, not only did the Vermilion Bird Army not have a clear understanding of this airborne general, but even Zhao Yingran, didn't she look down on Jiang Wang? What ordinary soldiers look down upon the most are those second-generation cultivators who only have cultivation skills and rely on their family's resources and skills to suppress them. It seems that if it is not the result of one's own hard work, then it is not worthy of their respect. They are an army with faith, and they are willing to sacrifice their lives to defend Hang Pass. How could those generals who did not have a common goal and a belief in the fearlessness of death be recognized by the Vermilion Bird Army? The Thousand Fists trial before entering the camp is not only to give the leaders a warning, but also to instill the spirit of the Vermilion Bird Army into the hearts of the trial takers, so that they can experience the beliefs of the Vermilion Bird Army. Looking at the eyes of the soldiers in front of him, there was no respect or submission, only fear of the strong. So Jiang Wang said, they had no knowledge of him at all. Different from the 3 imperial guards who had experienced life and death together all the way, they truly understood Jiang Wang's philosophy. The Vermilion Bird Army, including Zhao Yingran and even the king of Zhenbei, only knew Jiang Wang through hearsay and had no idea of his current temperament and strength. This is a taboo in the military. Su Shu was stunned when he heard this and hurriedly explained. Deputy General, we have tested your strength and you are indeed qualified to be the Deputy General. Jiang Wang lowered his eyes and did not look at Su Shu, but slowly drew out the Juxiao sword in his hand. A bluish-white cold light suddenly appeared, somewhat dazzling under the sunlight, causing Su Shu opposite him to squint his eyes. Su Shu couldn't help but clench the gun in his hand, feeling a little nervous. Deputy General, what do you mean? Jiang Wang spoke in a low voice, seemingly nonchalantly. Nothing. You Vermilion Bird Army have rules. I also have a habit. Those who can take my sword are considered my soldiers. Boom! The soaring mysterious energy carried a sharp sword intent and blew Zhao Yingran's hair apart. Her beautiful eyes widened slightly. Zhao Yingran was a connoisseur and could tell at a glance the path chosen by Jiang Wang 3rd grade. Sword cultivation, sword Dao extreme. He does not simply carry a sword as a weapon, but is a true sword practitioner who has chosen sword Dao. No matter how many people you send out, I will only use one sword. If you catch it, I will recognize you as my soldiers. If you can't catch it, I will turn around and leave, and tell the king of Zhenbei that I quit. As soon as these words were spoken, there was an uproar in the training ground. The soldiers of the Vermilion Bird Army are all brave men, how could they tolerate Jiang Wang's contempt? Su Shu said with a gloomy face, suppressing his anger. General, Please don't get hurt by the strong wind. Otherwise, we can't defeat you with 1,000 men. The sharp sword energy attracted more people in Hang Pass to watch. King Zhenbei and several third-grade masters stood in the air, looking at the confrontation below. Zhang Jingguo, how many people do you think can block Jiang Wang's sword? King Zhenbei looked at King Jiang with interest, his eyes full of deep meaning. Zhang Jingguo was the military advisor of the king of Zhenbei and also a veteran third-grade expert, so naturally he had an extraordinary vision. I think there should be at least 10,000 people. This boy is not very old, but he practices sword dao. With such a sharp sword intent, his power is extremely strong. Even 10,000 people may not be able to stop him. King Zhenbei shook his head and turned to ask the other people around him. If you were allowed to come, how many troops could you defeat? Several people looked at each other and said uncertainly. If it's the Vermilion Bird Army, I should be able to defeat 8,000 of them. For me, it's probably around 15,000, and for Ying Ran, it should be around 8,000 to 9,000. If Big Brother Sun takes action, he can probably break the formation of 25,000 people. A handsome young man wearing green armor said so. With a light sigh, King Zhenbei explained to the people around him in a hoarse voice. You underestimate the Jiang family's children. Take Jiang Wushan as an example. Every Jiang family child is outstanding among his peers. What's more, the Jiang family has the blessing of supreme bone. This king believes that if he uses his full strength with this sword, he can defeat at least 30,000 people. 30,000 people. Could it be that this boy has achieved third-grade great accomplishment, or even third-grade perfection, at such a young age? King Zhenbei was of second-grade vision, and everyone present was shocked to hear his evaluation. Chapter 96. The soldiers on the parade ground were naturally unaware of the discussions of the people in heaven. However, among the crowd, in the square formation of the imperial guards, Zhang Feng called the three commanders and Zhang Yu to hold a small meeting together. We'll act according to circumstances. If there's any danger, remember to save those Vermilion Bird soldiers. Zhang Yu asked with a puzzled look on his face. Save them? Why, will the young master hurt them? Zhang Feng pinched his waist, raised his neck and said proudly. How can a mere 50,000 men stop the young master's sword? These officials have no idea of the young master's strength. If the Vermilion Bird Army is in danger, they will definitely not be able to rescue in time. We brothers will have to help. Zhang Yu couldn't help but frown. Zhang Feng was always mysteriously confident in the young master. This was an army of 50,000 people. Apart from the second-grade masters, which third-grade could say that he could fight 50,000 people alone. But Zhang Feng had already been immersed in the fantasy that the young master was invincible and could defeat Vermilion Bird with one sword, and he didn't listen to Zhang Yu's explanation at all. The three generals looked at each other helplessly, sighed, and did not take Zhang Feng's words to heart. No matter how others look at him, Su Shu is facing tremendous pressure at this moment. As the core of the formation, his strength and performance will determine the upper limit of the power of the formation. His hands were shaking slightly, but his eyes were full of excitement. He had always dreamed of having a real duel with a high-quality martial artist one day. Jiang Wang held the sword upright, standing in front of him, and mobilized all his energy to the extreme. Captain Su, be careful, boom! The sharp sword intent rose, and under the clear sky and broad daylight, countless white sword shadows appeared behind Jiang Wang. The sword shadows continued, transforming into a bright moon reflected behind Jiang Wang. When the sword is out, it follows the momentum of wind and thunder. One sword takes one heart, and 10,000 swords bring peace. First move, Taiping sword. The bright moon broke away from behind Jiang Wang and transformed into sword shadows all over the sky, stabbing at Su Shu. Everyone present was shocked. Not good. King Zhenbei exclaimed, his figure disappeared in an instant, and he ran straight to the training ground. The other masters were still in shock from Jiang Wang's sword energy and could not recover for a long time. Zhao Yunguan was stunned by the sword shadows in the sky and completely forgot to support the Vermilion Bird Army and help Su Shu. Under the power of such sword, her long legs became a little weak, and she had to rely on the guandao in her hand to stand firmly. Sword intent is so strong. Just looking at it from a distance, it feels like a piercing through the chest. How did he become so strong in the past few years? The one who felt the deepest was undoubtedly Su Shu. When the sword shadow enveloped his body, he actually felt a sense of powerlessness. This was a sword beyond his cognition, and he had no desire to block it at all. He saw many blurry figures from the sword, including disabled and homeless children, disaster victims who had lost their homes and were starving. In this doomsday scene, a young man raised a sword, killed all the evil spirits and monsters, and saved the people from the water and fire. This sword was very light, so light that it did not hurt a hair of the common people. This sword was also very heavy, heavy enough to kill second grade, defy the imperial court, and become an enemy of all the sects in the world. At this moment, Su Shu suddenly understood Jiang Wang, understood why he was so powerful and why he was still pursuing the path to becoming stronger. He is different from other second-generation rich people. What he pursues is peace for millions of people. Su Shu, take the sword. A clear, low chuckle was heard. Su Shu looked up and saw a figure with a weird face in the sword's shadow. He used to look so cynical but now looked very tall. He was trying his best to control the speed of the falling sword's shadow and called out to wake up Su Shu, who was still in a daze. Su Shu then realized that he had lost the will to resist when facing the Taiping sword. This was unfair to the vermilion bird soldiers behind him. Fortunately, it was just a contest between their own people, and fortunately Jiang Wang was trying his best to control the speed of the falling sword's shadow. Otherwise, after this sword, Su Shu might have to say goodbye to this world forever. Ah! Su Shu shouted loudly and swung the spear in his hand with all his strength. The mysterious energy surged wildly, constantly drawing the mysterious energy from the army formation. The more than 10,000 people who had originally cooperated with him soon turned pale, and the army formation was about to be broken. Seeing that the situation was not right, Captain Wang, who was still covering his broken arm, waved his hand hurriedly. Master, Master, hurry up. Another 20,000 people joined in. The army of 30,000 was so powerful that the condensed mysterious energy flowed into the body of Su Shu, the center of the formation, like water. The flowing mysterious energy was like a surging river, flashing with colorful mysterious energy colors, hanging in the air. The people in Hang Pass walked out of their houses unconsciously and looked at the beautiful river in the sky in admiration. Oh, mother, it's so beautiful. A little child raised his red, frozen face and looked at the sky with envy. The child's mother squatted down gently, placed her warm hands on the child's face, and spoke softly. Good boy, when you grow up, you can become a hero like that and protect your mother, okay? The child may not understand the meaning of a hero, but he understands what protection means. This kind of protection is the love his mother has for him. He rushed into his mother's arms with joy and agreed with innocent words. Okay, I want to be a hero in the future, too, a hero who protects my mom. The same thing happened in various places within Hang Pass. In this city, the people worked together and devoted themselves to fighting. Everyone had the same goal, which was to defend Hang Pass. The strong cohesion generated by this also provides a steady supply of fresh blood to the defenders of Hang Pass. For them, the area behind Hang Pass is not only the territory of Dixuan, but also their own family. Those who can protect them all have one name, and that is hero. Boom! Su Shu waved the spear in his hand wildly. Unconsciously, the spear began to dance in a mysterious trajectory, the frequency became faster and faster, gradually tearing the air, and flames burned on the tip of the spear. Not enough! Not enough! Jiang Wang showed excitement on his face and was very satisfied with Su Shu's performance. Su Shu's face was ferocious, his armor exploded, revealing his solid muscles, his arms bulged, growing a full circle bigger, and he danced non-stop. He knew very well that this strength was not enough to stop Jiang Wang's sword. Master, come on! I can't hold on any longer. Captain Wang's face turned pale, and he almost fainted from the feeling of being plucked dry. It's too fierce. Su Shu is too good at sucking. He doesn't care about the consequences at all and just wants to make a desperate effort to exploit others. All 50,000 vermilion bird troops were present, forming a vermilion bird formation, fully assisting Su Shu's battle. No, maybe it's just pure defense. Blood oozed from the corners of Su Shu's mouth. Even with the support of more than 50,000 people, his strength had increased countless times, but he still felt that under this sword, he might die or be seriously injured, but he would never be able to withstand it intact. But we have tried our best. Even the entire vermilion bird army cannot withstand Jiang Wang's sword. For the first time, Su Shu felt hopeless. The strong sense of humiliation made him feel as if he was suffocating, and his former pride slapped him in the face like a slap in the face. Even if we are both third grade, so what? Given your third-grade strength, can you block this sword that carries the hope for peace for all people? You cannot bear the weight of this sword. The Imperial army obeys orders, merges into a military formation, and switches to attack and kill. A loud roar was heard, and the more than 30,000 Imperial guards suddenly realized and took action instantly. Chapter 97. Inside Hang Pass, the atmosphere was as solemn and murderous as if an army was at the gates. The murderous aura condensed by the phalanx of 50,000 Vermilion Bird troops and 30,000 Imperial guards was breathtaking. The Dixuan army formation possesses the ability to use the power gathered by low-level martial artists to fight against high-level martial artists. This is also the reason why Dixuan occupies a dominant position in the Central Plains. And the strength of one army is far more than enough to fight against the third-grade martial artist, according to consensus. However, the limits of ordinary third-grade martial artists do not represent Jiang Wang's limits. When the sword's shadow formed a bright moon hanging high in the blue sky, no high-quality martial artist in the entire Hang Pass could remain calm. The sharp sword intent oppressed the soldiers on the training ground, causing them to squint their eyes and unable to look directly at the sky. Su Shu felt a surge of new power injected into him, and his whole body's energy and spirit were finally united, and his profound energy was elevated to the extreme. Puff, a flame rose out of nowhere and ignited the tip of the gun in Su Shu's hand. All the high-level martial artists froze in fear. King Zhenbei stopped his galloping steps, stood in mid-air, and looked at Su Shu holding a spear in surprise. It's on fire! It's all on fire! Su Shu's whole body was burning with flames, like a Shura walking out of fire. The spears in his hands were like sharp blades, burning the air as he swung them, causing the space around him to distort. With a ferocious look on his face, Su Shu finally felt that he was strong enough to deal with Jiang Wang's sword. He swung the spear in his hand with all his strength to meet the sword's shadow falling from the sky. I learned spear skills when I was 3 years old, and killed enemies on the battlefield when I was 17. How could I not be able to block your sword? General, take my move, and set the prairie on fire with 100 strikes. Boom! The blazing flames swirled like a ferocious dragon. The spear seemed to fly out of his hand, and the tip of the spear turned into a dragon head, which opened its huge mouth and roared, trying to swallow the moon in the sky. Su Shu's silver armor was stained red, and the burning flames seemed to melt his flesh and blood. But all this was out of his mind. Su Shu abandoned everything at this moment, and suddenly realized the great Dao of the spear. With the assistance of 80,000 soldiers, he launched an attack that far exceeded the third grade. Zhao Yunguan stared at the roaring fire dragon in amazement, her heart horrified. This attack was enough to destroy the entire training ground. Jiang Wang, get out of the way. Her beautiful eyes were shaking and her heart was filled with worry. This situation was far beyond her control and might even cause a large number of casualties. As the flames devoured the bright moon, a dazzling fireball hung in the air, and the entire Hang Pass fell into silence. Most people believed that Jiang Wang would never be able to withstand this blow, and countless people felt regretful. Was a peerless genius going to perish here? And there were only 2 people who were still looking at the fireball in the sky slowly, waiting for that figure to appear. King Zhenbei and Zhang Feng suddenly said in unison. Here I come! Whoosh whoosh whoosh! Hundreds of sword shadows shot up into the sky from the fireball, with flames burning on the swords, carrying away sparks. A straight figure appeared in the firelight. He held the sword in one hand and raised it in front of his eyes. A hazy shadow of a giant sword enveloped him. As the sword energy continued to rise into the air, the flames were taken away little by little and the fire gradually subsided. Jiang Wang stood in the air unharmed, the breeze blowing his hair, his enchanting eyes raised with a smile. Congratulations, you got the third grade. A calm voice broke the silence, and the young man's words, accompanied by a chuckle, warmed people's hearts. Good. Master is invincible. Victory! Victory! The Imperial Guards were the first to cheer. Only by facing despair could one feel the strength of a strong man. Now, no one in the entire training ground dared to question Jiang Wang. Influenced by the cheers of the Imperial Guards, the Vermilion Bird Army finally reacted, raised their weapons and shouted. God bless Dixuan, may the general win. No one understands the importance of strength better than the soldiers of Hang Pass. In the army, martial arts are respected. A strong man who can suppress an army, no matter his background, official position or achievements, as long as he is here, Hang Pass will have an extra layer of security and he deserves the respect of the soldiers. Amid the cheers, Su Shu's legs went weak and he fell to the ground. Strong! Terribly strong. Jiang Wang calmly walked up to Su Shu, looking down at the man in front of him, a hint of majesty flashed across his smiling face. Are you convinced now? Su Shu suddenly came to his senses, and hurriedly knelt on one knee, clasped his fists and saluted. I am convinced. Su Shu will follow the general's lead from now on. Crash! The soldiers in the training ground half knelt in unison. Even Captain Wang used his broken right hand to clasp his fist and shout in pain. The Vermilion Bird Army follows the general's lead. Hey hey! Jiang Wang nodded in satisfaction. Was he convinced by the beating? Soldiers are really easy to get along with. Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps behind me. I turned around and saw that it was King Zhenbei and Zhao Yingran coming over. Zhao Yingran looked at Jiang Wang with resentment, with uncontrollable sourness in her eyes. She spent several years to build up her prestige in the Vermilion Bird Army, but now they all follow Jiang Wang's lead. You are here to seize power, right? Jiang Wang, you are so dishonest. How can I lead the troops in the future if you make such a big fuss? Jiang Wang scratched the back of his head awkwardly when he heard this. It's bad. I'm used to being the boss and forget that I'm just an adjutant now. Ahem, stop talking nonsense. I'm just a deputy. When you call me next time, remember to include the word deputy in your name. Don't call me general or not. Just call me deputy general. Ha ha ha. The soldiers laughed when they heard Jiang Wang's explanation. They were also worried that Jiang Wang would seize Zhao Yingran's power by force after his arrival. After all, strength is respected in the army, and if Zhao Yingran couldn't suppress his subordinates, it would be difficult for him to lead the troops. Now that Jiang Wang took the initiative to surrender, he naturally laughed heartily. All right, let's all go to training. I have something to say to your deputy general. Su Shu, you come over too. As soon as the king of Zhenbei opened his mouth, the soldiers in the training ground immediately stopped laughing with a serious look on their faces, and dispersed every few minutes to continue their daily training. A moment later, in the tent of the Vermilion Bird Army, King Zhenbei sat in the main seat and introduced to King Jiang several third grades who had just been attracted. There were originally 5 third-grade warriors in Hang Pass, including the Vermilion Bird, Azure Dragon, White Tiger and Black Tortoise armies, each led by a third-grade general, plus the military advisor Zhang Jingguo, a total of 5 people. The strongest among them is Sun Buwang of the White Tiger Army, who is already a third-grade Mahayana and is expected to be promoted to second grade. Now with the addition of Jiang Wang and the newly promoted Su Shu, Hang Pass's strength has reached its highest level in recent years, with 7 third-grade warriors. It's true that heroes emerge young. Young Master Jiang has such strength at such a young age, and he practices the 1 in a million sword Dao. This really opens my eyes. Chang Ching Kuo laughed and exclaimed in admiration. Jiang Wang was humble to the senior executives present, but he couldn't help but have a doubt in his heart. After hesitating for a moment, he couldn't help but speak. Lord Zhenbei Wang, are these all the high-quality martial artists in Hang Pass? King Zhenbei raised his eyebrows, but said calmly. Of course, if you count Mr. Meng, there are now 8 third-grade monks. Jiang Wang opened his mouth, but still gritted his teeth and spoke. Excuse me, but don't you think that with just this level of strength, how can we resist the attack of the barbarians? Chapter 98. Jiang Wang's words can be said to be a slap in the face of King Zhenbei. Jiang Wang, what do you mean by this? Do you look down on the marshal? The young man in green armor shouted, slammed the table and stood up, glaring at Jiang Wang. This man's name is Yang Wei. He is a descendant of a military family, but his family's strength is not that prominent. In Kyoto, he is just following behind the Jiang family. He is willing to come to the north to gain military merit. Yang Wei, sit down. King Zhenbei stretched out his hand to stop Yang Wei's action, and looked at Jiang Wang with a meaningful look. What do you mean? Do you have any different opinions? Jiang Wang pondered for a moment, organized his words and explained. 22 years ago, when Zhang Wuxian was guarding the northern border, there were 1 million troops stationed there, and the third-grade martial artist must have at least 20 people, but they still failed to defeat the barbarians. Why is it that the number of defenders has greatly decreased, but Hang Pass has never been lost? After these words were spoken, before the king of Zhenbei answered, Zhang Jingguo smiled and said. Young Master Zhang, you don't know this. Jiang Wang looked at Zhang Jingguo with a puzzled look. He really didn't understand the reason. Back then, Zhang Wuxian massacred hundreds of thousands of barbarian women and children, damaging the foundation of the barbarians. As a result, the barbarians have been recuperating for many years. Naturally, my great Xian has not stood still. The formation has made great progress in the past 20 years. Both the inner and outer walls are protected by formations, and there are 2 spirit stones that provide energy, which can greatly delay the barbarians' attack. Besides, Zhang Jingguo's expression suddenly became heavy and he spoke in a low voice. Who said that Hang Pass has never been breached in these years? Jiang Wang's pupils shrank when he heard this, and he couldn't help but exclaimed. You mean, Hanggu Pass has been breached? Zhang Jingguo looked up at the king of Zhenbei, and seeing that he did not stop him, he sighed. Hey, do you know when Yingran and the others became generals? Jiang Wang looked at Zhao Yingran in surprise, only to see that she had her eyes lowered and looked extremely lost. Yingran succeeded Vermilion Bird as a general 3 years ago. At that time, she was just entering the 3rd grade, about the same level as Su Shu. As for the reason for the succession, it was naturally because the old general of the former Vermilion Bird army died in battle. As he said this, he looked at the generals of the Azure Dragon and Black Tortoise armies. Yang Wei became a general 5 years ago, General Lu 8 years ago, and Sun Buwang has been a general of the White Tiger army for a little longer, since 20 years ago. The ones who have lived the longest are us old guys. Jiang Wang frowned and asked in confusion. You mean, Hanggu Pass has been breached 3 times in the past 10 years? Everyone present was silent, and even King Zhenbei's eyes showed a trace of reminiscence and sadness. It should be said that it broke 4 times. Jiang Wang suddenly slammed the table and shouted angrily. Since it is possible that we cannot defend it, why do we still let ordinary people stay in Hang Pass? Why don't we ask the court for reinforcements? King Zhenbei, what are you doing? Jiang Wang, shut up. Just point fingers here if you know anything. Zhao Yingran suddenly shouted in a tender voice, her tone full of anger, even her Xian Qi couldn't be suppressed and leaked out. The tent was shaking at the 2 people's angry shouts. Okay, Yingran, Jiang Wang is right. We can't shirk our responsibility. King Zhenbei spoke to stop the furious Zhao Yingran, stood up and walked to the sand table in the tent, lowered his eyes and looked at the model of Hang Pass. Jiang Wang, do you know what a war buffer zone is? The shocking words of King Zhenbei made Jiang Wang understand that behind the bright and beautiful background of the big mysterious light were actually thousands of corpses. Unlike the military buffer zone of modern technology, Dexuan actually set up the area around Hang Pass as a war buffer zone. How could Hang Pass possibly hold out against the hungry barbarians? Every few years, the barbarians would gather a large number of combat forces and attack the Hang Pass regardless of the losses. This was to test Dexuan's strength and to consume the barbarians' growing population and bring in sufficient blood food. That's right, the dead barbarians not only consumed the backlog of population, but also provided food for other living barbarians. Facing such a fierce attack, Dexuan would definitely not be able to avoid paying a price. The dent in the Bronze City Gate was the result of the barbarian king's hard efforts over the years. Once the city gate is breached and a loophole appears in the formation, the soldiers and civilians in the city will serve as a barrier to delay the barbarians' attack. As he spoke, King Zhenbei's eyes flashed with coldness, and he spoke in a gloomy tone. At that time, the sect was forced to support Hang Pass due to pressure. This was also the reason why the Empress forced the sect to stay in the north and did not allow them to move south. Jiang Wang's heart skipped a beat and his eyes were filled with shock. So, Hang Pass is the inner and outer gates? This is an inner city, reserved for us and the barbarians. King Zhenbei nodded silently, and the others also bowed their heads and kept silent. Jiang Wang was so angry that he laughed. Do the soldiers and civilians know about these things? Zhang Jingguo explained on behalf of King Zhenbei. Some of them are retired veterans, and some civilians are native to the north. They have nowhere to retreat. This is their home. Moreover, we will definitely protect them at all costs and will never let them die before us. I really admire you. Under such circumstances, you can still encourage so many people to join the army and fight for you. Faced with Jiang Wang's questioning, neither King Zhenbei nor Zhang Jingguo answered. Zhao Yingran said indignantly. Then what do you say we should do? Behind us is the Great Xian. We can't lose the Hang Pass. Once the barbarians go deep into the interior and the battle line is launched, how many people will die? Have you ever thought about it? Here, only a few tens of thousands of people are abandoned every few years. Compared with the entire Great Xian. Then why did you let them die first? Have you told them the truth? Jiang Wang interrupted Zhao Yingran and said sternly. Looking at the silent King Zhenbei and others, Jiang Wang felt a little depressed. It was a sect again. If the sect had not occupied most of the resources in the north, but had its own troops to defend itself and was unwilling to help Dixuan to stop the barbarians, the front line in the north might have been quite easy. Take the Wushan sect as an example. The small Wushan sect has more than 5 third-grade and 1 second-grade sect master. If they had such strength, they would have launched a northern expedition long ago if they had come to the northern border. But now, the Empress has reduced the army, the court is unable to support the northern border, and the sects are unwilling to help unless it is beneficial to them. Unless it endangers themselves, they are not willing to help. This forced Hang Pass to build 2 layers of walls, one for its own protection, and the other to buy time when Hang Pass could not be defended, allowing those damn sects to react and support Hang Pass to save their butts. What a damn strategy! Jiang Wang looked directly into the eyes of King Zhenbei and said word by word. I was wondering why the Empress was so anxious to send me here. It turns out she wanted me to die for her. King Zhenbei, you are wrong about one thing. We didn't ask the sect to support us. It was the sect that asked us to protect them. What the hell are the inner and outer walls? If I were guarding the city, I would tear down the inner wall myself and tell those sect dogs that if the Hang Pass is breached, they will all be in big trouble. What kind of war buffer zone is this? It's ridiculous. Facing Jiang Wang's questioning, King Zhenbei looked at him with some surprise. This kid is quite stubborn, is he trying to turn against the sect? This is the way of thinking that led Jiang Wang to separate the entire Dixuan. Everyone feels that only by living in peace with the sect can the Dixuan be kept alive. But they have never thought about whether it is only after the sect is destroyed that I, Dixuan, will remain unmoved. Chapter 99. Inside Hang Pass, in a hidden attic. Ms. Lu, thank you for your contribution to Hang Pass. I am ashamed to have to rely on the young at my age. Meng Ke stroked his beard and said with a sigh. Sweat was dripping down Lu Xiao's forehead. She drew on the base of the array with her hands. After a while, a transparent jade ball was taken out from the base of the array. Holding the transparent sphere in his hand, Lu Xiao breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that the runes on it were functioning well and the spirit chi was abundant. Meng Deru, you are too polite. Xiao is just doing what she can do. Now that I have taken out the array base safely, do you really want to make this decision? Meng Deru smiled, tenderness flashed in his turbid eyes, and he answered in a serious tone. I have thought about this for a long time. At my age, there is no need for me to leave Frostbone Pass. I didn't know this before. Now that I have such a good opportunity to strengthen the safety of the array center, I have no choice but to do it. I'm sorry to trouble you, Miss Lu. After I die, you have to come to Hang Pass to retrieve the center of the formation. But... Lu Xiao hesitated for a moment, but still gritted her teeth and tried her best to persuade him. Meng Deru, my method of forming a physical formation is only in the experimental stage. Not only can you not leave Frostbone Pass in the future, but if you want to replace the formation center for someone else, you may be in danger of your life. You really don't need to come in person. This formation does not require high cultivation, but focuses on vitality. It is more appropriate to choose young soldiers to take on the responsibility. Meng Deru looked at Lu Xiao with a firm gaze, his hunched back gradually straightened. He walked to the window and looked down at the countless people in Hang Pass. I have lived a lifetime, and I have been a coward all my life. The barbarians have bullied my great Xian for hundreds of years, and countless heroes and sages have sacrificed their lives. What does it matter if I am the only one left? I was dismissed from office at the age of 30, and have been staying in Hang Pass for half a century. I have studied all my life and this is the only life I can live a little longer. There is nothing I pursue outside of Hang Pass. If I can die of old age in Hang Pass, it will be my lifelong wish. Miss Lu, isn't what I've said clear enough? My becoming the foundation of this formation is the best choice for both Frostbone Pass and its people. Lu Xiao sighed and nodded silently. The fair jade hands suddenly closed, wrapping the soul stone of the array base in the palm of her hand. Golden runes suddenly appeared and gushed out from the gap between her palms. Meng Deru's brows relaxed. He stretched out his withered hands, palms facing up, and asked Lu Xiao to place her palms on his hands. The runes swam like tarsal snakes, crawling along Meng Deru's palms and all over his arms. The silver-white hair instantly became dry, wrinkles appeared on the skin, and the face that Meng Deru had worked hard to maintain suddenly looked old. Call. Lu Xiao exhaled a breath, opened her gentle eyes like water, and looked at Meng Ke in front of her, who seemed to have aged by dozens of years. Meng Dara put his palms together and held the formation base firmly in his hands. Then with a puff, the formation base disappeared. From now on, he himself was the formation base of Hang Pass. His cloudy eyes opened, the light in his gaze dimmed a little, and Meng Dara smiled happily. So this is the method of the physical body formation foundation. Now I know the distribution of the Hang Pass formation like the back of my hand. If the barbarians come back one day, I can use my own righteous energy to enhance the effect of the formation. Ms. Lu, Han Guguan will never forget your kindness. Seeing that things had come to this, Lu Xiao smiled helplessly, and looking at Meng Daru's aging appearance, she still reminded him. Meng Daru, although this method greatly improves the effect of the formation, it also consumes a lot of your vitality. In the future, please do not consume too much of your own vitality to nourish the formation unless it is necessary. This will invisibly consume your lifespan. I have prepared the last layer of insurance for the formation. If you die unexpectedly, the formation will be locked directly. No one except King Zhenbei can close the formation again until the energy of the formation is exhausted. You must take care of your body and don't make me run another trip in the future. Meng Dara straightened his expression, clasped his hands together, and bowed deeply. With Miss Lu's good words, I will take good care of my old bones. Now that this matter has been completed, I will report to the King of Zhenbei. If Miss Lu does not mind, you can come to my floating light academy to rest. Lu Xiao blinked her beautiful eyes and thought of her cousin and her sister-in-law. She thought that Jiang Wang had just entered the military camp and would be busy with trivial matters, so she declined Meng Dara's invitation and went to look for Li Muir. Late at night, in a dark corner, several dark shadows gathered. Sir, the king sent a message that it will take half a day to reach the outside of Hang Pass. When should we act? A dark shadow knelt on one knee and buried his head deeply in the ground, not daring to look directly at the tall figure in front of him. The tall figure had a low voice with a hint of hoarseness. Tomorrow at noon, proceed as planned. This is the location of the array base. You will know what to do then. We have been waiting for this opportunity for more than 20 years. I don't want any mistakes, you know. The people on the ground trembled all over and answered hurriedly. I understand. Go ahead. Whoosh! Several dark shadows disappeared here. The tall black figure walked to the window and looked at the dark night sky. It's time to return the humiliation Dixuan has inflicted on me. The moonlight shone on his face, his expression was firm and his eyes trembled slightly. Master, the general wants you to go to the main camp for a meeting. Early in the morning, there was a knock on Jiang Wang's bedroom door, and Zhang Feng's shouting at the door woke him up from his sweet dream. No, we can't work together if we don't share the same ideals. Yesterday, he flew into a rage in front of King Zhenbei and scolded all the senior executives. A group of cowards who only compromise with the sect. Master, General Zhao said that the barbarians have shown unusual behavior in recent days and we need to take precautions in advance. Bang! The bedroom door was kicked open, and Jiang Wang walked out while putting on his armor. There is a rule in the army that anyone entering the barracks must wear armor at all times. He has now customized his armor with the family crest and the vermilion bird military pattern. You told me earlier. I thought you were here to argue again. This is called saying one thing and doing another. He said he didn't want to get involved in the affairs of Hang Pass, but when the barbarians were mentioned, Jiang Wang immediately got up and rushed to the main camp. Zhang Feng wiped the sweat from his head. The young master has been a little angry these days. Is it because he has no place to vent his anger? That's right, I never lost my temper with the maids when I had them with me in bed before, I must have gotten angry. He hurried to the main camp, which was the tent where King Zhenbei handled military affairs. All the generals with official positions in the army were here. When King Zhang came in, he was the last one to arrive. Now that everyone is here, I'll make it short. Seeing King Zhang coming, King Zhenbei just looked at him deeply and began to talk about the news brought back by the scouts in the past few days. Jiang Wang found a seat at random and sat down. Before his butt could even warm up, a chill ran straight from his neck to his forehead. He looked around and saw Zhao Yingguan staring at him angrily, and a voice sounded in his ears. Jiang Wang! You dare to be the last one to arrive? Our Vermilion Bird army is always the first to arrive. I tell you, you broke my record that I have held for 3 years. Jiang Wang glanced at the angry Zhao Yingran and blocked her voice transmission without leaving a trace. Little trash, don't you know that the big guys always come last? Don't you think I will speak in advance when King Zhenbei comes? The scouts we sent out recently were attacked by barbarians, and now only 3 of them risked their lives to bring back the news. King Zhenbei said in a low and serious tone. The war is about to begin again. The barbarians have gathered their troops and are gathering 100 miles outside the pass. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone in the camp gasped. The barbarians are really coming. Chang Qingkuo frowned and asked the question that everyone was most concerned about. What is the scale of this barbarian attack? After pondering for a moment, King Zhenbei tapped the armrest of the chair with his fingers, bringing the distracted people back to focus. Based on limited intelligence, it is speculated that the scale of this event is far greater than in previous years. What? There was a cry of surprise in the tent. The scale is far beyond that of previous years, but Hang Pass has not been much stronger than in previous years. This is not good news. Quiet! King Zhenbei shouted loudly, and in the blink of an eye, the tent fell silent. Since the enemy is approaching, there is no possibility for our northern garrison to retreat. Ever since the barbarian king was promoted to the 1st grade, we have expected this day to come. What else is there to discuss? Do any of you want to escape from the battlefield? The majesty of the king in the north should not be underestimated. Everyone has a deep bond with Hang Pass, so how could he desert the battlefield and abandon the soldiers and civilians of a city? Seeing that no one said anything, Jiang Wang frowned and asked. General, if the 1st grade barbarian king comes in person, do you have a plan? This statement was a bit of a slap in the face of King Zhenbei, but it was also a fact that had to be faced. Now the strongest person in the entire Hang Pass was King Zhenbei, who was at the peak of the 2nd grade. Who would be able to compete with the barbarian king, who had already achieved the 1st grade? King Zhenbei's expression remained calm, and he said lightly. You don't need to worry about the barbarian king. We have fought many times over the years, and I am confident that I can handle it. After saying that, he stood up and gave orders. All troops, listen up. Enter heaven-level combat status, recruit all the reservists, veterans, and mercenaries in the city, and incorporate them into the regular army to form the 4 armies of heaven, earth, black and yellow. The 4-elephant army of 200,000 people will be commanded by me personally to deal with the barbarian king. The generals of the original 4 armies will lead the 4 newly formed armies of heaven, earth, black and yellow to wipe out the barbarian troops. I obey your command. The generals of the 4-elephant army all responded in unison, and Jiang Wang also clasped his hands together to indicate that he understood. Now it is a state of real combat readiness, and only one voice can be heard, so he naturally knows what to do. Jiang Wang. King Zhenbei suddenly called Jiang Wang's name. He was stunned, but subconsciously took a step forward. I will be here in the end. I have seen your strength. You are the strongest among the 4 armies. I order you to lead the 3 imperial guards again. I grant you full command authority and let you kill the remaining high-ranking warriors of the barbarians. Remember, I'm talking about all the other high-grade ones. If a 2nd grade appears, you'll have to hold it back with your life. Can you do it? Jiang Wang's pupil shrank, and he was a little surprised. Has the situation reached this point? Do the barbarians have other 2nd grades? I obey your orders. Although this order was almost impossible to complete, Jiang Wang still accepted it without hesitation. Seeing that Jiang Wang followed his arrangements without hesitation, King Zhenbei's expression relaxed and his tone softened. Don't worry, I will never let you die. If that happens, Zhang Wuxian will not let me go. Meng Dero and all the Confucian scholars of Fuguang Academy will support you. You can trust them. They are not the nerds in Kyoto who only know how to study. Jiang Wang's eyes lit up. He had long wanted to meet these students from the Fuguang Academy. They must be extraordinary to be arranged by the king of Zhenbei to cooperate with him in killing Gao Pin. Military advisor, you must immediately arrange for people to go south to seek help. Pass on the king's Tianji military order and order the 4 states of Yuzhou, Jizhou, Yangzhou and Liangzhou to mobilize troops to support. At the same time, notify all the sects in the north to send me reinforcements. If they don't arrive within 7 days, I will personally go up the mountain to ask for an explanation. Zhang Jingguo was stunned. This was the first time that the king of Zhenbei gave such a strong order to the sect. Zhang obeys your orders. King Zhenbei stood up, gripped the sword at his waist, and walked out of the tent. Everyone, take action! Everyone walked out of the camp with heavy steps. Suddenly, a roar was heard and flames shot up into the sky in the city. Jiang Wang was startled, and a bad feeling came over him. Turning around and looking into the city, a cloud of black smoke was slowly rising from the center of the city. It's the location of the array base. Someone attacked the array base. Sun Buwang suddenly exclaimed, and everyone reacted. Several dark shadows suddenly leaped out from the city and rushed straight to the north gate. Stop them! King Zhenbei shouted loudly and took the lead to chase after him with a knife. Jiang Wang also reacted and followed closely. The two of them were extremely fast and caught up with the black shadows in the blink of an eye. These people were wearing standard military uniforms and were obviously soldiers. Each of them was carrying a package as tall as a person. I wonder how they managed to hide in the crowd. No, it's too late. King Zhenbei said anxiously, drawing his sword and slashing. A blue-black saber chi came out in response and arrived beside several black shadows in the blink of an eye. Several people knew that they were not inferior to others. One of them let out a long roar, turned around and raised his hand to grab the black knife shadow. At the same time, the mysterious energy in his body surged, and he chose to self-destruct. Boom! A deafening explosion sounded, and another fireball appeared in the air, shattering the saber chi of King Zhenbei. Is this, detonating the spirit stone? Jiang Wang secretly thought that this was not good. He had used this trick before. A large yield spirit stone detonated and could even kill a second grade. It's terrible. Under the desperate gaze of King Zhenbei, the black shadows finally arrived under the north city wall, and a wave of mysterious energy came. Boom boom boom, explosions rang out one after another, shaking the entire earth. Snowflakes fell from the eaves, and the people in the city walked out of their houses in horror, witnessing with their own eyes the collapse of the towering wall. The northern wall was breached. Loud shouts were carried into the city by the cold wind. On the distant horizon, in the wind and snow, groups of black shadows were approaching. The fight is about to begin. Chapter 100. Be on guard, everyone, follow the drill and take your positions today. Don't panic, the barbarians haven't attacked us yet, line up, line up. Woo, where are you, Mom? The sky was filled with dark clouds, snowflakes were falling, and there was chaos inside Hang Pass. Soldiers armed with weapons hurried to the north city wall with serious expressions. There were crowds of people on the streets. Some men rushed into their homes, took out their wrapped weapons and ran out, while women held their children, carried simple emergency supplies and ran to the shelter in the south of the city. People heading north and those fleeing south were mixed together, and there was order in the chaos. On the northern wall of Hang Pass, a group of high-quality martial artists stood on the dilapidated ruins and stared at the shadow in the north. The biting cold wind blew past, bringing with it heavy snow like goose feathers, raising layers of snow fog on the ground, making the view into the distance seem less real. Standing on the ruins, King Jiang subconsciously looked at King Zhenbei. This man was not defeated by the betrayal from within Dixuan. He raised his head and looked towards the north, his eyes full of murderous intent. Military advisor, how is the formation going? King Zhenbei spoke calmly, and this predicament did not make him lose his composure. Chang Qing Kuo glanced at Meng Deru on the city wall without leaving a trace, and nodded in understanding. Now that the formation base has been destroyed and the city walls have collapsed, the city defense formation is like a rootless duckweed. Now it can only barely hold out against some long-range attacks and can only last for half an hour at most. Ms. Lu has already brought people to do emergency repairs. It will take at least half a day to restore the system. King Zhenbei stared silently at the shadow approaching in the distance, and suddenly spoke. Everyone prepare to leave the city to meet the enemy. Jiang Wang's eyes suddenly condensed, and he subconsciously looked at King Zhenbei. He did not choose to abandon the city and retreat, but instead decided to go out of the city to meet the enemy. This is not like the style he talked about yesterday. Moreover, facing the barbarians who far outnumber the defenders, leaving the city would be like seeking death. But this time no one questioned the order of King Zhenbei, and everyone acted according to the plan. Phalanxes gathered one by one, and the soldiers dug out usable city defense equipment from the ruins and set them up on intact high points as a cover for the army outside the city. After all, the imperial guards were the troops brought along by Jiang Wang, and they assembled very quickly. Now they were lined up outside the city wall waiting. The roars of the barbarians were heard in the wind and snow. High-quality martial artists could already see through the wind and snow the siege weapons, the mammoths, standing tall among the barbarians. One head. Both ends. 100 heads. In the past, there were only a dozen giant elephants appearing in sieges, but now there are hundreds of them. No one knows what resources the barbarians rely on to feed so many giant spirit beasts. This kind of giant beast only appears in the ice fields of the far north, and feeds on preying on other large spirit beasts. Due to resource issues, there are very few of them left in the world. The food needed for the barbarians to tame one is as much as that of 1,000 people. How many years of planning have been put into taming these hundreds of giant beasts? Jiang Wang stared at the barbarians approaching step by step, and suddenly asked Zhao Yunguan beside him. Have you ever seen this generation of barbarian king? This man has such great strategy and courage. Zhao Yunguan has now recruited the troops and is preparing for pre-war mobilization. She thought for a moment, looking at the towering figures, and spoke in a low voice. This generation of barbarian king is not simple. Not only has he become the first grade in the past 50 years, he is also a good learner. Many experts disappear from my hang pass every year, including martial artists and Confucian scholars. The military advisor once speculated that this barbarian king is learning the knowledge of my great mystery. Jiang Wang's heart sank. The military training he had acquired since childhood made him sense the direction of the war. The barbarian king chose to attack earlier than in previous years. There must be a deep meaning behind this. A war of this scale must have been planned for many years, with internal spies and all the people attacking in a desperate attempt. He wants to gamble the fate of his clan and fight to the death with my great Xian. The snow fell heavier, the wind grew colder, and a white mist rose, hiding the figures of the barbarians. Jiang Wang frowned slightly. The fog obscured the defender's vision, and the long-range defense equipment was rendered useless. Even the celestial phenomenon seems to be helping the barbarians. At this moment, a loud voice spread throughout the hang pass. Soldiers, the barbarians are eyeing our homes and trying to seize our fertile land and enslave our people. And what will they see? It's the frightened rats, the abandoned cold bone pass, no. They will see a pack of bloodthirsty wolves and sharp weapons. We will tear their flesh apart and destroy their totems. They will hear our cries and will tremble at your courage. Soldiers, please show your courage and the strength in your backs, and defend Dixuan with my blood. The armies of heaven and earth will be divided into left and right wings to encircle us, and the 4 elephants army and I will be the vanguard army. Raise our flag and tell them to withdraw from Dixuan and keep their bodies intact. Boom! The army of more than 400,000 people was in an uproar. Flags with the 4 symbols, totems and the colors of heaven and earth were raised, and they shouted in unison. Kill, kill, kill! Jiang Wang looked at the flags raised in other military camps with some embarrassment, and then he realized that his own imperial army seemed to have no name yet. Zhang Feng suddenly emerged from the crowd, rummaged through his chest, and took out a military flag that was completely black with a flying bear pattern embroidered on one side and a big Zhang character in the middle. Master, I have already prepared it for you. Zhang Feng proudly unfolded the flag and showed his design to Jiang Wang. The flying bear was made of pure embroidery. Zhang Feng said that Li Muir had embroidered it when she left Zishan, hoping that the young master would have a majestic flag when he regained the military power in the future. And now, it just happened to be used. Jiang Wang did not make a decision on his own. He turned around and looked at the slightly familiar faces in the army. Soldiers, are you willing to live and die with me, Jiang Wang, in the future? The 3 commanders of the Imperial Guards looked at each other, smiled lightly, and answered in unison. General, hasn't it been like this for a long time? Jiang Wang blinked, a hint of joy flashed in his eyes. It is a great blessing for a general to have a group of brothers who are willing to live and die with him. From today onwards, there will no longer be 3 Imperial Guards, only the Zhang family army. Zhang Feng, raise the flag. Okay. Zhang Feng tied the flag, and the dark battle flag danced in the wind. In the ice and snow 20 miles away from Hang Pass, several strong figures were standing in the blizzard. Greer's green eyes glowed as he looked at the Hang Pass that he coveted day and night. Your Majesty! Gooden fell from the air and knelt on one knee in front of Greer. The mammoths have already reached 10 miles outside the Hang Pass. The king of Zhenbei has indeed chosen to go out of the city to fight. The warriors of the 10 tribes are all excited and are waiting for the king to give the order to attack. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.